Are you serious? You want to use your paid leave now, during such a busy time? What are you thinking? Mary, the executive, snapped at me. Yes, I'm serious. It's for my brother's wedding. Fine, take the day off. Actually, don't bother coming back at all. You're fired. Do you understand? Those were the shocking words I received from Mary when I requested a single day of paid leave after dedicating over 10 years to the company. It was the breaking point for me after enduring her harassment for so long. I quit. I'll be using my remaining 40 days of paid leave starting today. Thank you for everything over the years, I said, taking off my apron and gathering my belongings. Little did Mary or I know, my departure would lead to a major crash in the company's stock prices. My name is Lisa. My brother Bob and I had a comfortable life with our kind parents. Every summer, we'd go on 2-day trips, often visiting famous amusement parks within the country. However, our lives changed drastically in the spring of my senior year of high school. My parents went to a nearby tourist spot for cherry blossom viewing, something they often did together. Bob and I easily saw them off, not knowing it would be the last time. On their way back, they were involved in a multi-car accident. Their car was wrecked, and both of them passed away suddenly. Bob and I, who had been comfortably protected by our parents, were thrown into the rough seas of society. As the older sister, I had no time to mourn. I had to shoulder the burdens of life quickly. Bob was still in middle school, so I had to be strong for both of us. Holding back my tears, I took care of all the household chores. Fortunately, we had some savings and insurance money left by our parents, so we weren't immediately troubled by living expenses. However, Bob was a bright student who excelled in his studies. Unlike me, I wanted to give him the opportunity to go to college. I was speechless when I checked the college tuition fees. I had wanted to go to college myself and study nutrition, but that wasn't an option anymore. Deciding to use our parents' savings for Bob's college, I realized I needed to find a job as soon as I graduated from high school to sustain our future. My job hunt went relatively smoothly. When considering where to apply, I thought of working somewhere related to something my parents loved. That's when I found out about a confectionery shop called Johnson's, which made chestnut sweets, a favorite of my parents. The place was easily accessible from my house, so I set my sights on Johnson's as my top choice and poured my heart into the resume. Before I knew it, I was advancing to an interview with the president and quickly received a job offer. To celebrate, I bought a special chestnut cake and shared it with Bob. He tearfully apologized for making me give up on going to college because of him, but I kept telling him not to worry. He shouldn't worry about such things. I hugged him and repeatedly assured him it was okay. Although giving up on college was disappointing, I was genuinely happy to work at the store my parents loved. I learned that Johnson's, a confectionery store, was unusually a publicly traded company and quite large. I felt a little pride in being able to work at the main store. Life as a working adult was busy but fulfilling. I'd work all day, come home, cook dinner, clean up, and sleep. In the morning, I'd do laundry and head to the shop. Since I had decided to use the money my parents left for Bob's tuition, I supported our living expenses with my salary alone. I would score supermarket flyers for bargains to feed a hungry high school boy and myself while cutting down on food expenses. I wanted cute cosmetics now that I was working, but I settled for cheaper ones from the supermarket. I kept telling myself to save until Bob graduated from college. He offered to help with household chores, but knowing he studied late into the night, I firmly refused. When I told him, "We can't afford a gap year, so you need to study hard now to make up for it," he understood and began to study even harder. Every day his hard work paid off, and he got into a national university. We cried and celebrated together when he got into his first choice university. Once in college, Bob started part-time work, bringing a bit of ease to our lives. When he bought me a dress with his first paycheck, I was so moved that I cried on the train home. Bob's college years flew by quickly. He secured a job as an executive assistant at a company under Smith Holdings, a major corporation, and decided to move out after graduating. It felt like a hole was left in my heart when Bob, whom I raised like a parent, moved out, especially in the early spring chill. However, I was relieved that I could support him through college despite our parents' absence. At the confectionery shop where I have worked non-stop for 8 years, I have had many juniors and have become accustomed to the job. Now, there is almost nothing I don't know about the shop, and I have become good friends with the craftsmen and have become someone they can rely on. Yet being family-owned, the company retains some old-fashioned, harsh work practices. I had to do chores like waiting for the president's family and run personal errands for Mary, the president's wife. Mary was quite a handful, always wanting to be the center of attention. I tried to stay under her radar with big round glasses and a simple hairstyle, but still often faced her harassment. Still, I never thought of quitting. I wasn't sure if I, a high school graduate, could find another job easily, and I needed to support Bob. Plus, my pride in working with the chestnut cakes my parents loved kept me from considering leaving. Years after Bob started working, I received a call from him, sounding embarrassed. By all accounts, the proposal was a success. His fiancée, Maria, is the daughter of the president of the Smith Group, where he works. Bob, working as an executive assistant, had become close with the president's family and quickly formed a bond with Maria. With the blessing of the president and CEO, he had proposed to Maria, and they were now set to marry. "Sis, don't cry. I'll make things easier for you now," Bob said, noticing my tears of joy. "Bob, congratulations," I replied, truly overwhelmed with emotion. I couldn't find any other words and just kept repeating, "Congratulations." The wedding was set to take place in 3 months. It coincided with a busy season at the store, but nothing was more important than my dear brother's wedding. Besides, I had hardly used any paid leave so far. If not now, when would I use it? After hanging up the phone, I headed straight to my closet. As expected, I didn't have a dress suitable for a wedding. It's a once-in-a-lifetime event for Bob, so I wanted to wear something really stylish. I'll go dress shopping on my next day off. I need to get a new small purse too, I thought. I couldn't contain my excitement, as if it were my own big day. While my mind was filled with happiness about Bob's wedding, the company was facing tough times. Unable to bear Mary's bullying, 2 junior colleagues had resigned. Additionally, a veteran male employee left to take over his family business. Leaving so suddenly shows a lack of responsibility, Mary complained, ignoring the fact that her harassment was the cause. "It's true, especially at a time when we don't have enough hands." The president agreed. President Johnson is a yes man to Mary. It's pitiful that he can't stand up to his wife and follows her lead even at work. He's not reliable at all. With people leaving, the president and Mary didn't even think of hiring replacements. They dumped the extra work on us and just grumbled, which was truly exhausting. Still, I worked desperately, covering for the juniors who left. The wedding day approached before I knew it. I had planned to apply for a day off when Mary was in a good mood but hadn't found the right time to mention the wedding. With only 2 weeks left, I had to apply today. "Mary, good evening." "Oh, Lisa, what do you need?" "My brother is getting married." "That's great. Congratulations. And when are you getting married, Lisa?" I was just there to apply for leave. Why did she need to ask about my marriage prospects? Annoyed but not showing it, I continued, "Someday I will. For now, I'd like to take a day off on the 25th, Sunday." "Why? You want to take a day off during this busy period? Are you serious?" "I am. It's my brother's wedding." "Fine, take the day off. Actually, you don't need to come back ever. You're fired. Understand? Fired. Fired after over 10 years of dedicated service, hardly taking any leave, and for my brother's wedding. Working tirelessly through this busy period, even covering for those who left." Something inside me snapped. Perhaps it was the last straw after enduring years of Mary's harassment. "Then I'll resign. I'll use the remaining 40 days of my leave starting today. Thank you for everything over the years." As I spoke, I removed my bandana. Ignoring the stunned colleagues, Mary, and the speechless President Johnson, I grabbed my belongings from the locker and left the company without looking back. Despite being unfairly dismissed, I felt a strange sense of liberation once I stepped out of the company. Determined to sever all ties with them, my first stop was a mobile phone store. I changed my number to ensure I wouldn't receive any calls from the company. Then, deciding to start anew, I chose to move out of my apartment since the company knew my address and I didn't want them tracking me down. I thought about looking for a new place through a real estate agent, but then I decided to fulfill a long-held dream of living in a hotel. After all, I had been working for over 10 years since high school without any significant breaks. I couldn't spend my salary on leisure. I had been thrifty, buying only essential clothes and cosmetics, and dining out was out of the question. In other words, I had a decent amount of savings. I decided to treat myself with these savings for my 10 years of hard work. With that in mind, I checked into a business hotel near the station for a long-term stay. I jumped into the freshly made bed, marking the start of my comfortable hotel life. Finally, the day of Bob's wedding arrived. The bride, Maria, was the daughter of the well-known Smith Group's president. The wedding was held in a luxurious venue at a top-tier hotel. "Thank you all for attending my sister's wedding today," began President Smith, Maria's brother, during his speech. "The groom, Bob, has been working as my assistant and is an exceptionally talented young man, truly my right hand. It's a great happiness for my sister to marry such a capable and sincere man. For us at Smith Group, it's also a great addition to have such a strong character join our family, promising future growth and stability for our group." Tears welled up in my eyes during his speech. My brother had become more admirable than I ever imagined. Who would have thought he'd earn enough trust to marry the sister of a president? According to what Bob had told me, President Smith, the son of the chairman, is expected to be the next chairman of the group. Together with President Smith, my brother Bob is improving the performance of the company they currently manage. I recalled the sudden grief I faced in my senior year of high school when our parents passed away. Bob was just a middle schooler then. I, not yet fully an adult myself, seriously struggled with how to guide my brother into adulthood. Seeing the balance in the savings account left by our parents, I even contemplated dropping out of high school to work. Bob once hesitantly said, "I wanted to attend a tutoring school during the summer break." I remember my smile being strained as I said, "Sure, go ahead and do your best." Through desperate money management and cooking efforts, I helped Bob graduate from college. Now he's doing a respectable job, good enough to marry into a more affluent family. This must be what they mean by a sister's pride. Maria, soon to be Bob's wife, was smiling happily beside him. The more I looked at her, the more I admired her elegant beauty. As a sister, what relieved me most was how kind Maria seemed. Every time something happened, their glances and shared laughter showed how deeply they were in love. It filled me with happiness too. It was during the meal with our family after the ceremony when Bob noticed something. "Sis, is there something bothering you?" I had hesitated for just a moment, lost in thoughts about my job situation, and Bob, sharp as ever, whispered in my ear, "No, it's nothing serious." "It doesn't have to be serious. Just talk to me about it," Bob insisted. "It's not something to discuss on such a happy day. I'll tell you later. But now you've got me worried. Come here for a second." He gently pushed me behind a partition, giving us privacy. I teared up again at my brother's thoughtfulness. "Sis, is it about your job? Did something tough happen?" Bob had hit the nail on the head. "Yes, it's about the job. I told them I needed a day off for your wedding, and they said they fired me. I got so mad I resigned on the spot." I ended up spilling everything, though I had intended to calm down and tell him later. "Wait, sis, you worked so hard at Johnson's, and they fired you." "Yes, remember I told you about that executive always giving me a hard time? She's in charge of attendance. When I asked her for a day off, she said if I'm taking time off during such a busy period, I'm fired. So I just said fine and left with my things." Bob was speechless. "Didn't they call to apologize later?" "That was it. Yes, I just wanted to get away from the company, so I changed my cell phone number. I even moved out of my apartment since they knew my address. Now, I'm living a lavish hotel life with the money I saved." Bob didn't laugh at my attempt to lighten the mood. "Maria," he called, peering from behind the partition. His bride, Maria, now in casual clothes instead of her wedding dress, hurried over, looking even softer. Bob briefly explained my current situation to her. "Maria, let's make Lisa our first guest. We have a guest room in our house." I couldn't possibly. I don't want to be a burden on newlyweds. I'm actually enjoying my hotel life. "Don't worry about me," I said, hurriedly trying to refuse. Bob interrupted. "Maria insists, sis, really come stay with us. Living in a hotel, you can't cook and your nutrition suffers. Plus, you must be anxious. Stay with us until you find your next job." "That's right," Maria added. "Our father built us a house that's actually too big for just the two of us. It's perfect. Please stay with us until you feel settled, Lisa." I couldn't possibly. I feel so indebted. "It's okay," Maria said gently. "If you could teach me some of Bob's favorite dishes when you have time, it would help me too. Please, really, is it okay?" Unable to lift my head from a mix of gratitude and guilt, I nodded. They both smiled, and it was decided that I would stay with my brother and his new wife. About a week after I started staying at Bob's, a man came to visit, escorted by Bob. It was John, the son of the president of Johnson's, where I used to work. I knew him by sight, but as he worked for a different company, we had hardly spoken. "Why are you here with Bob?" I asked, surprised. I wondered. Bob grinned. "Actually, he's a friend from college." John spoke up. Regarding the many years you worked at Johnson's, my parents did something terrible. I can't apologize enough. He sincerely apologized. No, John, you don't need to apologize, I said. Well, I've been thinking of returning to the family business. I found out that your paid leave hasn't been compensated yet, so I'll make sure it's paid this week. Also, there's something confidential. John, not now. That's confidential to my sister too. Bob playfully stopped him. Though I couldn't find out the details, their demeanor made me think nothing bad would happen, so I decided to wait and see. A few days later, I saw on the news that Johnson's stock had plummeted. Had those two done something? Maria appeared with a smile. Lisa, I actually loved Johnson's chestnut cakes and held a lot of their stocks. But after what they did to you, Bob and I discussed it and sold them all. My father also held shares, and he was furious when he heard about their treatment of you, so we all sold them. This crash, I held quite a bit for investment purposes, and when I sold them all at once, it seems many others are selling Johnson's shares now. She showed me the screen of her tablet, displaying news about Johnson's staff resigning and incidents of harassment by Mary. Suddenly, Bob appeared. John and I bought most of the sold shares. With that, we can have a say in the management. Being the son of the president doesn't make John the president of Johnson's. At the next shareholders' meeting, we plan to oust the current president and executive director and install John as president. We'll clear the bad reputation and compete again with delicious chestnut cakes. John has learned proper management at another company. He's trustworthy. I noticed you and John were planning something, but I never imagined this, I said. Right, sis. When John becomes president, would you support him again? This is a letter from him. Bob handed me the letter. The letter from John contained an apology and a request for me to come back, promising to never involve the current president or Mary in the company again. He asked if I would teach him about the business, becoming his right-hand person. John and I agree that we won't make you do unreasonable work, Bob assured. I couldn't help but smile at the earnestness of their offer. Returning to Johnson's, the company I had once left behind, was tempting. I truly loved Johnson's chestnut cakes and wanted to preserve the flavor cherished by my parents. So I nodded quietly yet firmly. When I rejoined the company, I found that most of the staff had resigned and relationships with suppliers were mostly damaged. It seemed a daunting task to turn things around. However, the staff who stayed were highly motivated, filled with a desire to protect Johnson's flavors. Moreover, craftsmen who had been with the company since the previous president's time and long-term suppliers were hopeful about John's leadership, which shone a ray of hope for revival. Just as the business started to improve, the former president and Mary showed up, apparently trying to make a comeback. When security tried to remove them, they began throwing office supplies. I immediately called the police. I'll sue you. How dare you do this? Mary screamed. I calmly presented past ledgers showing their embezzlement and audio testimony from former employees about Mary's harassment. They turned to John for help, but he firmly said, "What Lisa is saying represents the collective decision of the company, including myself." The two were taken to the police, and it turned out they faced various charges, including embezzlement, tax evasion, and forgery. They ended up behind bars for a long time. A year later, a big opportunity came to Johnson's. The Smith Group, where Bob worked, invited Johnson's to join a new business venture they were funding. The offer came from Bob, the secretary to the president. John agreed immediately, and we were soon busy with recruitment and planning for the new outlet. It was a busy time, but a dreamy kind of busy. Riding the train for another site visit, I reflected on how far I had come. There was a time when I wanted to give up everything, but through years of steady work, I reached where I am now. Steadily and sincerely building things up, slowly but surely, is important. Looking at the recent performance graphs, I was reminded of this once again.
I thought you were different, Graham, I whispered, my voice breaking. But I see now you're just like the rest. Graham's face contorted, a mix of anger and disbelief. What the hell are you talking about, Marlene? I've given you everything. I stood my ground, years of pent-up frustration finally boiling over. Everything? You've taken everything from me. The pristine kitchen, once my pride and joy, now felt like a gilded cage. Graham's expensive suit and perfectly coiffed hair seemed garish, a stark contrast to the hollowness I felt inside. You ungrateful dash, Graham started, but I cut him off. No, I'm done being silent. My hands shook, but my voice grew stronger. I'm done pretending this is the life I wanted. Graham's eyes narrowed. Watch yourself, Marlene. Remember who pays the bills around here. A bitter laugh escaped me. Oh, I remember. How could I forget when you remind me every single day? My name is Marlene, and this is the moment I realized my fairy tale marriage was nothing but a beautifully crafted lie. It hadn't always been like this. When I first met Graham at a charity gala 5 years ago, he swept me off my feet. Charming, successful, and attentive, he seemed like the answer to all my prayers. A whirlwind romance followed, and before I knew it, we were walking down the aisle. "You'll never want for anything," Graham had promised on our wedding night. "I'll take care of everything." And he did in his own way. The house, the cars, the vacations, all the trappings of a perfect life. But as the months turned into years, I began to see the strings attached to every gift. "Marlene, darling," Graham's voice dripped with condescension, pulling me back to the present. "Let's not be dramatic. You have a wonderful life here." I looked around the kitchen, seeing it with new eyes. The state-of-the-art appliances I was expected to use to prepare his gourmet meals. The spotless countertops I spent hours maintaining to his exacting standards. "A wonderful life?" I echoed. "Is that what you call this? Being your personal maid and cook?" Graham's jaw clenched. "I work hard to provide for this family. The least you could do is show some appreciation." Family. The word stung. We had no children of our own, but Graham's son from his previous marriage, Dustin, lived with us. Once a polite teenager, he now mirrored his father's disdain for me. As if on cue, Dustin sauntered into the kitchen. "What's going on? Why are you yelling at Dad?" I turned to him, hoping to find an ally, but his cold eyes told me otherwise. "Nothing, son," Graham said smoothly. "Marlene's just having one of her moments." Dustin snorted. "Again, maybe if she actually did something with her life instead of spending your money, she wouldn't be so miserable." The casual cruelty in his voice was the final straw. I grabbed my purse from the counter and headed for the door. "Where do you think you're going?" Graham demanded. I paused, my hand on the doorknob. "Out! I need some air." "Don't be ridiculous," Graham scoffed. "Dinner needs to be ready by 7. We have guests coming, remember?" For a moment, I almost gave in. The urge to apologize, to fall back into the familiar pattern of obedience, was overwhelming. But something inside me had shifted, a spark of defiance I thought long extinguished. "Make your own damn dinner," I said and walked out the door. I stared at the ATM screen in disbelief. Insufficient funds. How is that possible? I'd just deposited my birthday check from Mom last week. "Is there a problem, ma'am?" The bank teller's voice startled me. I forced a smile. "No, just checking my balance." "Thank you." As I walked out of the bank, my mind raced. Graham must have transferred the money without telling me. Again, the realization hit me like a punch to the gut. I was trapped not just emotionally but financially too. Back at home, I found Graham in his study, engrossed in paperwork. "Graham, did you move money from our joint account?" I tried to keep my voice steady. He barely looked up. "I had some business expenses." "Why?" "I couldn't withdraw any cash today." "I thought we agreed dash." Graham cut me off. "Marlene, you know I handle the finances. You don't need to worry about it." "But it's our money," I protested. "I should at least know dash." "Our money." Graham's laugh was cold. "I earn it, Marlene. You spend it. Let's not pretend otherwise." The casual cruelty of his words left me speechless. I retreated to the kitchen, my sanctuary turned prison, and mechanically began preparing dinner. Dustin sauntered in, phone in hand. "Hey, Marlene. What's for dinner?" "Chicken parmesan," I replied, grateful for the distraction. "Cool. Oh, by the way, I need $500 for a new gaming console." I hesitated. "Dustin, I'm not sure if dash." "Come on," he interrupted. "It's not like you guys can't afford it. Dad always says you're just the housewife, so what else are you going to spend money on?" The knife I was holding clattered to the counter. "What did you just say?" Dustin rolled his eyes. "Chill out. I'm just saying, it's not like you contribute anything else." I felt something snap inside me. "Get out of my kitchen. Now." "Whatever," Dustin muttered, slouching away. That night, after a tense dinner where Graham praised Dustin's latest school achievement and ignored my existence, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. How had I let myself become so isolated, so dependent? The next morning, I made a decision. While Graham was at work and Dustin at school, I dug out my old laptop. With shaking hands, I created a blog. "The Invisible Wife," I titled it. I began to write, pouring out years of frustration and pain. The words flowed easily, a cathartic release of everything I'd bottled up for so long. "I used to dream of Prince Charming," I typed. Instead, I got a master and a prison of luxury. Hours passed as I wrote post after post. Stories of financial control, emotional manipulation, the slow erosion of my self-worth. As I hit publish on each one, I felt a tiny spark of something I hadn't experienced in years: hope. That evening, as I served dinner, Graham narrowed his eyes at me. "You seem different today." I shrugged, fighting to keep my expression neutral. "Just a good day, I guess." Dustin snorted. "Yeah, right. What could possibly be good about your day? It's not like you do anything." I bit my tongue, the secret of my blog burning inside me. Let them think I was useless. I knew differently now. Later, as Graham and Dustin watched TV, I snuck back to my laptop. To my shock, my blog already had comments. Women sharing similar stories, offering support and understanding. "You're not alone," one wrote. "Stay strong." Tears pricked my eyes as I read message after message. For the first time in years, I didn't feel invisible. I felt seen, heard, validated. As I closed the laptop, a new resolve settled over me. This blog wasn't just an outlet, it was a lifeline. A step towards reclaiming my identity, my independence. I glanced towards the living room, where Graham and Dustin's laughter echoed. They had no idea what I'd started. And for now, that was exactly how I wanted it. The soft glow of my laptop screen illuminated the dark kitchen as I furiously typed my latest blog post. 3 months had passed since I'd started The Invisible Wife, and the response had been overwhelming. "You've given me the courage to speak up," read a comment from user HopefulHeart23. "I'm not alone anymore." Tears pricked my eyes as I scrolled through similar messages. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, ready to reply, when I heard footsteps approaching. I slammed the laptop shut just as Graham entered the kitchen. "What are you doing up so late?" he asked, suspicion lacing his voice. "Couldn't sleep," I lied smoothly. "Just catching up on some reading." Graham grunted, clearly uninterested. "Well, don't forget we have the Johnsons coming for dinner tomorrow. I expect everything to be perfect." As he retreated upstairs, I let out a shaky breath. The constant fear of discovery was exhausting, but the sense of purpose my blog gave me was worth the risk. The next morning, as I prepared for the dinner party, my phone buzzed with a notification. My latest post had gone viral, shared thousands of times across social media platforms. "Marlene!" Graham's sharp voice cut through my excitement. "Where's my blue tie? The one I told you to have dry cleaned." I bit back a retort. "It's hanging in your closet, Graham. Right where I put it yesterday." He muttered something under his breath and stomped off. I turned back to my phone, heart racing as I saw an email from a popular women's magazine. They wanted to interview me about my blog. The dinner party that evening was a blur of forced smiles and polite conversation. As I served dessert, Mrs. Johnson turned to me. "So, Marlene, what do you do with your time? Any hobbies?" Before I could answer, Graham chuckled. "Oh, Marlene's content being a homemaker. Aren't you, dear?" I felt a surge of defiance. "Actually," I said, meeting Mrs. Johnson's eyes, "I've recently started writing. It's been quite fulfilling." Graham's fork clattered against his plate. "Writing? What on earth about?" "Just life experiences," I said vaguely, heart pounding. "Nothing you'd find interesting, I'm sure." Later that night, after our guests had left and Graham had retired to his study, I snuck back to my laptop. The magazine wanted to do the interview tomorrow. I typed out a quick acceptance, hands shaking with a mix of fear and exhilaration. The next day, I made an excuse about running errands and met the journalist at a small cafe across town. Sarah, the interviewer, was warm and encouraging. "Your blog has resonated with so many women," she said. "How does it feel to have such an impact?" I took a deep breath. Honestly, it's terrifying and empowering all at once. For years, I felt invisible, voiceless. Now, I'm part of a community. We're supporting each other, sharing our stories. It's liberating. As the interview progressed, I felt a weight lifting off my shoulders. For the first time in years, I was being seen as Marlene, not just Graham's wife or Dustin's stepmother, but as my own person with thoughts and dreams. "One last question," Sarah said as we wrapped up. "What's next for The Invisible Wife?" I paused, considering. "I'm not sure yet, but I know I can't go back to being silent. This blog, this community, it's given me a purpose I didn't even know I was missing." As I drove home, my mind raced with possibilities. The magazine feature would bring even more attention to the blog. More women would find their voices. And maybe, just maybe, I'd find the strength to make real changes in my own life. I pulled into the driveway, steeling myself to face Graham and Dustin. But for the first time in years, I didn't feel dread at the thought of entering my own home. Instead, I felt a glimmer of hope. The seeds of resilience had been planted, and they were beginning to bloom. The annual Thompson family barbecue was in full swing, the backyard filled with laughter and the smell of grilled meat. I plastered on a smile, playing the role of the perfect hostess while my insides churned with anxiety. "Marlene, darling." My mother-in-law's shrill voice cut through the chatter. "Where's that potato salad you promised?" I hurried to the kitchen, grateful for a moment's respite. As I reached for the bowl in the fridge, I caught sight of my reflection in the window. The woman staring back at me looked tired, defeated. I barely recognized her. "Need a hand?" My mother, Evelyn, appeared in the doorway, concern etched on her face. "I'm fine, Mom," I lied, hefting the bowl. "Just a bit overwhelmed with all the guests." Evelyn's eyes narrowed, but before she could press further, Graham's booming voice called from the patio. "Marlene, where's that damn salad?" I hurried out, nearly colliding with Dustin. He smirked, deliberately bumping my shoulder as he passed. The bowl wobbled, a glob of potato salad splattering onto my blouse. "Geez, Marlene," Dustin sneered. "Can't you do anything right?" I bit my tongue, fighting back tears as I set the bowl on the table. Graham glanced at my stained shirt, his lip curling in disgust. "For God's sake, Marlene," he hissed. "Go change. You're embarrassing me." As I turned to leave, I caught my mother's eye. The pity in her gaze was almost unbearable. Inside, I leaned against the bathroom door, struggling to breathe. My phone buzzed. Another comment on my latest blog post. "You're stronger than you know," it read. "Don't let them dim your light." Those words gave me the strength to change my shirt and return to the party. But as I stepped back outside, I walked into a conversation that stopped me cold. "I don't know how you do it, Graham," my brother-in-law was saying. "Running a successful business and dealing with..." "Well," he gestured vaguely in my direction. Graham chuckled. "Oh, Marlene? She's harmless. Useless as a housewife, really, but she knows her place." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. I stood there, frozen, as the men laughed. Dustin joined in, eager for his father's approval. "Yeah, all she does is mope around the house and spend Dad's money," he added. Total dead weight. Something snapped inside me. Years of pent-up frustration and anger bubbled to the surface. Before I knew what I was doing, I marched over to the group. "Is that what you really think of me, Graham?" My voice was surprisingly steady. "A useless housewife." The laughter died abruptly. Graham's face flushed with anger. "Marlene, this is hardly the time or place dash." "No," I cut him off. "I think it's exactly the time and place. You want to talk about useless? How about a husband who belittles his wife at every turn? Or a stepson who shows zero respect?" Gasps rippled through the crowd. Dustin's mouth hung open in shock. "That's enough," Graham growled, grabbing my arm. "You're making a scene." I wrenched away from him. "No, Graham. You've been making a scene for years. I'm just finally calling you out on it." With that, I turned and walked away, head held high. The party fell silent behind me. As I reached the house, I felt a gentle hand on my shoulder. It was Evelyn, her eyes shining with a mix of pride and concern. "Oh, sweetheart," she whispered. "I've been waiting years for you to stand up to him. Come on, let's get out of here." Without a backward glance, I followed my mother to her car. As we pulled out of the driveway, leaving behind the stunned faces of the party guests, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. "Where to?" Evelyn asked softly. I took a deep breath, tasting freedom for the first time in years. "Anywhere but here, Mom. Anywhere but here." As we drove away, I knew there was no going back. The breaking point had come, and with it, the first step towards reclaiming my life. The musty scent of old papers filled the air as I sifted through the contents of my father's safe deposit box. Evelyn stood beside me, her hand resting supportively on my shoulder. "I can't believe Dad never told me about this," I murmured, examining a thick envelope. "Your father always wanted to protect you, Marlene," Evelyn said softly. "He knew Graham would try to control this too if he found out." My hands trembled as I opened the envelope. Inside was a letter and several legal documents. As I read, my eyes widened in disbelief. "Mom," I whispered, "Dad left me everything. The beach house, his investments, even shares in his company. It's millions." Evelyn squeezed my shoulder. "You deserve every penny, sweetheart. Now you can start fresh, on your own terms." As the reality sank in, a plan began to form in my mind. This inheritance wasn't just financial freedom, it was a chance for justice. Back at Evelyn's house, I paced the guest room, my mind racing. I could leave Graham, start a new life. But a part of me, hardened by years of emotional abuse, wanted more. I wanted Graham to feel the powerlessness he'd inflicted on me for so long. My laptop chimed with a notification. Another comment on my blog. Your words gave me the strength to leave my abusive husband. Thank you for showing me I'm not alone. In that moment, everything clicked into place. I knew exactly what I had to do. Over the next few days, I meticulously planned my next steps. I consulted with a lawyer, ensuring Graham couldn't touch my inheritance. I reached out to a small publishing house that had shown interest in my blog, pitching a book idea. And most importantly, I started looking for a place of my own. All the while, Graham's increasingly frantic calls and messages went unanswered. Let him worry, I thought grimly. Let him feel what it's like to be ignored and dismissed. A week after the disastrous family barbecue, I returned home. Graham was waiting, his face a mask of barely contained rage. Where the hell have you been? He demanded. Do you have any idea how embarrassing it's been, trying to explain your little tantrum to everyone? I met his gaze steadily. I've been making plans, Graham. Plans that don't include you. He scoffed. Plans? What plans could you possibly make without my money? You'd be surprised, I replied coolly. I'm leaving you, Graham. I'm done being your doormat. His face flushed with anger. Leaving me? And go where, exactly? Do what? You're nothing without me, Marlene. Nothing. I smiled, a calm settling over me. That's where you're wrong. I have my blog, which is becoming quite successful. I have a book deal in the works. And most importantly, I have my inheritance. Graham's eyes narrowed. Inheritance? What inheritance? The one my father left me, I said, savoring the shock on his face. The one you knew nothing about. Turns out I'm worth quite a bit, Graham. And you won't see a penny of it. He lunged forward, grabbing my arm. You can't do this to me. I made you who you are. I wrenched away from him. No, Graham. You tried to destroy who I am. But I'm reclaiming myself, starting now. As I turned to leave, Dustin appeared in the doorway, his face a mix of confusion and anger. What's going on? He demanded. Dad, what's she talking about? I looked at my stepson, feeling a twinge of pity. I'm sorry, Dustin. I tried to be a good stepmother, but you and your father made it clear I was never truly part of this family. Now I'm choosing myself. With that, I walked out, leaving behind a stunned Graham and Dustin. As I drove away, a weight lifted from my shoulders. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in years, I felt truly free. My phone buzzed, another blog comment. You're an inspiration, it read. I smiled, realizing that my journey wasn't just about me anymore. It was about all the invisible wives out there, waiting for their chance to shine. The secret plan was in motion. And this was just the beginning. The sleek office space hummed with energy as I surveyed my new empire. The Invisible Wife had transformed from a simple blog into a thriving lifestyle brand, empowering women across the globe. My team bustled around me, preparing for our biggest product launch yet. Marlene, we've got the final numbers for last quarter, my CFO, Sarah, announced, handing me a report. We've exceeded projections by 30%. I smiled, a surge of pride washing over me. Excellent work, everyone. Let's celebrate tonight. As the team cheered, my phone buzzed. Graham's name flashed on the screen. I hesitated before answering. What is it, Graham? I asked, my voice cool and professional. Marlene, I need your help, he stammered, sounding uncharacteristically desperate. The company's in trouble. I've made some bad investments and dash. And you want me to bail you out? I finished, my tone sharp. Please, Marlene. I know things ended badly between us, but dash. I cut him off. You're right, Graham. Things did end badly. And that's entirely on you. With that, I hung up, feeling a mix of satisfaction and a twinge of guilt. But I pushed the latter aside. I'd earned this success, and I wasn't about to let Graham drag me down again. Later that evening, as we celebrated our company's success, my phone lit up with a news alert. My heart skipped a beat as I read the headline. Thompson Industries faces bankruptcy amid fraud allegations. I excused myself and stepped outside, my mind reeling. Graham's company, the source of his power and arrogance, was crumbling. And judging by his earlier call, he'd seen it coming. As I scrolled through the article, a familiar name caught my eye. Dustin Thompson, now working for his father's company, was implicated in the fraud scheme. My stepson, it seemed, had followed too closely in his father's footsteps. The next morning, I arrived at the office to find a crowd of reporters waiting. News of my connection to Graham had spread, and they were hungry for a statement. MS. Thompson, one shouted. Did you know about your ex-husband's fraudulent activities? How do you respond to allegations that your success is built on inside information from Thompson Industries? I took a deep breath, straightening my shoulders. I left my marriage to Graham Thompson over a year ago. My company, The Invisible Wife, was built from the ground up, fueled by the stories and strength of women who refused to be silenced. I have no connection to Thompson Industries or its current troubles. As I pushed past the reporters, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Dustin. "Marlene, please," he begged, his voice cracking. "Dad's a mess. We need your help. You owe us that much, at least." I felt a flash of anger. "I owe you nothing, Dustin. You and your father made that very clear years ago." "But we're family," he protested. "No, Dustin. We're not. Not anymore." I ended the call, my hands shaking. The empire Graham had built on manipulation and control was falling apart, and a part of me reveled in the justice of it all. But another part ached for the family I'd once hoped we could be. Back in my office, I stared out the window at the city skyline. My own success stood in stark contrast to Graham's downfall. I'd risen from the ashes of our toxic marriage, stronger and more resilient than ever. A knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. It was Sarah, holding another report. "Marlene, you need to see this," she said, her expression serious. "It seems Thompson Industries' collapse might affect some of our suppliers. We need to act fast to protect our interests." I nodded, pushing thoughts of Graham and Dustin aside. I had my own empire to protect now, one built on empowerment and mutual support rather than manipulation and greed. As I dove into crisis management mode, I couldn't help but feel a sense of irony. The skills I'd honed as the invisible wife, adaptability, resilience, strategic thinking, were now the very tools I used to lead my company through turbulent times. The day Graham had dismissed me as a useless housewife felt like a lifetime ago. Now, as I guided my team through this challenge, I knew the truth. I was anything but useless. I was a force to be reckoned with, and I was just getting started. The sharp rap on my office door jolted me from my concentration. Before I could respond, it burst open, revealing Graham and Dustin, their faces contorted with a mix of desperation and rage. "You've got some nerve, Marlene," Graham snarled, storming towards my desk. I stood, my heart racing but my voice steady. "This is a private office. You need to leave." Dustin slammed his fist on my desk. "Not until you give us what we're owed." "Oh," I echoed, incredulous. "You're not owed anything." Graham's eyes narrowed. "Don't play dumb, Marlene. We know about your little windfall. Your father's inheritance." I felt a chill run down my spine. How had they found out? "That money should be ours," Dustin spat. "We're family." I laughed bitterly. "Family? Is that what you call it?" Years of belittling me, treating me like a servant. Graham stepped closer, his voice low and menacing. "I made you who you are. Everything you have is because of me." Something snapped inside me. Years of pent-up frustration and anger came pouring out. "You made me," I hissed. "No, Graham. You tried to break me. But guess what? I rebuilt myself. This company, my success, it's all mine. And you can't touch it." Graham's face reddened. "You ungrateful bitch. After everything I've done for you, Done for me." I cut him off. "Let's talk about what you've done, Graham. How about the years of emotional abuse? The financial control? Or should we discuss the fraud allegations against Thompson Industries?" Both men paled at that. "That's right," I continued, my voice gaining strength. "I know all about it. And unlike you, I built my company honestly, with my own talent and hard work." Dustin lunged forward, but I stood my ground. "You're lying. You must have stolen inside information from Dad's company." I shook my head, almost pitying him. "No, Dustin. I didn't need to steal anything. My success comes from understanding what women like me have gone through. The invisible wives, the silent sufferers. I gave them a voice and they responded." Graham's bravado crumbled. "Marlene, please. We're desperate. The company's gone, our assets are frozen. We need help." For a moment, I saw a flicker of the man I'd once loved. But then I remembered all the times he'd dismissed my needs, my dreams. "I'm sorry you're in trouble," I said, my voice firm. "But that's not my problem anymore. You can't just abandon us." Dustin shouted. "What about loyalty?" I met his gaze steadily. "Loyalty goes both ways, Dustin. You and your father made it clear long ago where your loyalties lie." Graham's desperation turned to fury. "You'll regret this, Marlene. We'll tell everyone how you betrayed your family, how you Enough." I slammed my hand on the desk, startling them both. "You want to talk betrayal? How about the years you spent tearing down my self-esteem? The countless times you made me feel worthless? I took a deep breath, centering myself. I don't owe you anything. Not my money, not my time, and certainly not my loyalty. Now, get out of my office before I call security. For a tense moment, I thought they might refuse. But then, deflated and defeated, they turned to leave. At the door, Graham paused. This isn't over, Marlene. I met his gaze, unflinching. Yes, Graham. It is. As the door closed behind them, I sank into my chair, adrenaline still coursing through my veins. I'd done it. I'd stood up to them, refused to be manipulated or guilt. My phone buzzed, a message from my mother. Everything okay, sweetheart? You seemed stressed earlier. I smiled, feeling a wave of gratitude for her unwavering support. Everything's fine, Mom, I typed back. In fact, it's better than ever. As I looked out over the city's skyline, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The confrontation with Graham and Dustin hadn't just been about money or success. It was the final step in reclaiming my power, my voice. I was no longer the invisible wife. I was Marlene Thompson, CEO and advocate for women everywhere. And I was just getting started. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink as I stood on the balcony of my beachfront villa. The sound of waves lapping against the shore provided a soothing backdrop to my thoughts. Marlene, my mother's voice called from inside. Everything all right, sweetheart? I turned, smiling at Evelyn as she joined me. Everything's perfect, Mom. I was just thinking about how far we've come. Evelyn squeezed my hand, her eyes misty. Your father would be so proud of you, honey. I know I am. The mention of my father brought a bittersweet pang to my heart. His inheritance had been the catalyst for my new life, but it was my own strength that had seen me through. As we watched the last rays of sunlight fade, my phone buzzed. A news alert caught my eye. Former CEO Graham Thompson sentenced in fraud case. Evelyn noticed my expression. What is it? I showed her the article. Graham's going to prison. Dustin, too. How do you feel about that? She asked gently. I paused, considering. Relieved, I suppose. But also sad. For the family we could have been if things had been different. Evelyn nodded, understanding in her eyes. You can't change the past, Marlene, but you've built an incredible future. As if on cue, my phone chimed again. This time it was an email from my publishing team. Your book, The Invisible Wife No More, has hit the New York Times bestseller list. Tears of joy sprang to my eyes as I showed Mom the news. She pulled me into a tight hug, her pride palpable. You did it, sweetheart. You really did it. Later that evening, as we sat around the dinner table with some of the women I'd met through my blog, now dear friends, I felt a sense of completeness I'd never experienced before. Lisa, a former lawyer who'd left her abusive husband, raised her glass. To Marlene, who gave us all the courage to reclaim our lives. As the others echoed the toast, I felt overwhelmed with gratitude. No, I said, my voice thick with emotion. To all of us. For supporting each other, for refusing to stay invisible. After dinner, as the others chatted and laughed, I slipped away to my study. I opened my laptop, navigating to the Invisible Wife blog where it all began. My cursor hovered over the new post button. Taking a deep breath, I began to type. Dear friends, when I started this blog, I was a shadow of myself, voiceless, powerless, invisible. Today, I stand before you as a best-selling author, a successful entrepreneur, and most importantly, a woman who has reclaimed her identity. But this journey wasn't just about me. It was about all of us, the invisible wives, the silent sufferers, the women who were told they were nothing without their husbands. Together, we've proven just how wrong that notion is. To those still trapped in the cycle of emotional abuse and control, there is hope. There is a way out. You are stronger than you know, and you are not alone. To those who've already broken free, your resilience inspires me every day. Keep shining your light, keep telling your stories. And to Graham and Dustin, I hope you find the peace and understanding that eluded you in our family. Your actions have consequences, but your future is still unwritten. Choose wisely. As for me, this chapter of my life is coming to a close. But the story isn't over. It's just beginning. I can't wait to see what the next page holds, not just for me, but for all of us. With love and gratitude, Marlene. As I hit publish, I felt a profound sense of closure. The invisible wife was gone, replaced by a woman who stood proudly in the light of her own accomplishments. I rejoined the gathering, my heart full. As I looked around at these strong, resilient women, my mother, my friends, my chosen family, I knew that whatever challenges the future held, we would face them together. The sweet taste of justice had given way to something even more powerful. the joy of true independence, and the strength of unbreakable bonds. This was my happily ever after, hard one and on my own terms. And it was only the beginning.
The day I bought my first house, my cousins decided it belonged to them. I should have seen it coming. They'd been treating my life like a timeshare for years. But I guess even doormats have their breaking point. My name is Tiffany, and I've spent the last decade being everyone's favorite emotional ATM. You know the type. The responsible one, the reliable cousin who always has her act together, the one who gets called at 3 a.m. because someone needs bail money or a place to crash. Again. Tiff, your Greek yogurt's gone bad. Lorelei's voice echoed through my apartment as she rummaged through my fridge. It was 7 a.m. on a Tuesday, and she'd let herself in. Again. With my spare key that was supposedly for emergencies only. That yogurt was fresh yesterday, I called back from my bedroom where I was getting ready for work. Before you stayed over, without asking. Well, it tastes funny now. I heard the distinct sound of my entire yogurt container hitting the trash. You should really buy the brand I like anyway. The organic one? I closed my eyes and counted to 10. My mortgage approval letter sat heavy in my purse, a secret I'd been guarding for weeks. After 5 years of overtime and side gigs, I'd finally done it. My own place, my rules, no more surprise roommates. Hey, did you wash my workout clothes from last week? Reagan appeared in my doorway wearing my favorite sweater. I left them in your hamper. You mean the ones you've left here for 3 weeks? I adjusted my blazer, avoiding her eyes in the mirror. No, I didn't wash your clothes. Again. God, you're so uptight lately. Reagan flopped onto my bed, messing up my carefully made sheets. What's your problem? My problem was currently sprawled across my bed wearing my clothes, but I kept quiet. I'd learned long ago that confrontation just led to family-wide drama, tears, and guilt trips about blood being thicker than water. Instead, I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. Lock up when you leave, I said, knowing they wouldn't. They never did. At work, I stared at the mortgage approval letter between meetings. The little craftsman house on Cedar Street wasn't much, just 2 bedrooms and a tiny yard. But it was mine. All mine. Or it would be, after closing next week. My phone buzzed with a text from Naomi. You telling them at the BBQ tonight? I typed back, have to. Closing's next week. Want backup? I can bring wine and a taser. I smiled despite myself. Naomi had been pushing me to stand up to my cousins for years. Just wine, trying to keep it casual. The family BBQ was anything but casual. Aunt Rachel's backyard was packed with relatives, the air thick with charcoal smoke and passive-aggressive comments. I waited until most people had a few drinks in them before making my announcement. So, I said, clearing my throat during a lull in conversation. I bought a house. The reaction was immediate. Congratulations from the distant relatives, questions about the neighborhood, and then, oh my God, this is perfect, Lorelei squealed, sloshing her wine. Ray and I were just saying we needed a change of scene. My stomach dropped. What? We'll help you move in, Reagan chimed in, already pulling out her phone. I'm thinking we could do like a roommate situation, split the bills and everything. That's not really. This is so exciting. Lorelei wrapped me in a tight hug that smelled like Pinot Grigio. We'll finally all live together like we always talked about. We never talked about. I call the master bedroom, Reagan announced to general laughter. I caught Naomi's eye across the yard. She made a throat-cutting gesture and mouthed, "Shut it down." But I just stood there, smile frozen in place, as my cousins planned their invasion of my home. My sanctuary. My escape. That's when something inside me shifted. Maybe it was the way Lorelei was already ordering furniture on her phone for our house. Maybe it was Reagan texting her boyfriend about their new address. Or maybe it was just that last thread of patience finally snapping after years of stretch. I pulled out my phone and typed a quick message to Caleb at work. Remember that moving company you mentioned? I need a quote. And directions to the cheapest storage unit in town. My cousins were still chattering about paint colors and room arrangements when I looked up. I smiled, really smiled, for the first time that evening. "Sure," I said sweetly. "I'll even hire the moving truck." They had no idea what was coming, but they would. "Family helps family," Aunt Rachel declared, slamming her coffee mug on my kitchen counter. It was 8 a.m. on a Sunday, and somehow my simple house purchase had turned into an impromptu family meeting. "I raised you better than this, Tiffany." I hadn't even said no yet. I'd just suggested very gently that maybe my new house wasn't big enough for 3 adults. "It's 2 bedrooms, I pointed out, trying to keep my voice level. "And I need one for my home office." "You can put your desk in the living room," Lorelei waved her hand dismissively. She was already measuring my kitchen windows with a tape measure she'd brought. "These curtains won't work. I'm thinking something in emerald green. I haven't even closed on the house yet." "Which is why it's perfect timing." Reagan bounced in, carrying a stack of home decoration magazines. "We can help you make all the decisions. Oh, we should do a feature wall, something bold." My phone buzzed, a text from Naomi. "How's the ambush going?" I typed back quickly. "They're redecorating my house before I've even moved in." "Tell them to back off," came the immediate response. But before I could say anything, Aunt Rachel cleared her throat. "You know, when your mother passed, I promised her I'd look after you, make sure you had family around you." And there it was, the dead mom card. I gripped my coffee mug tighter. "Mom would want you to be happy," I said quietly. "Exactly," Lorelei jumped in. "And what could make you happier than living with your cousins? We're practically sisters." Sisters who never paid rent, ate all my food, and treated my belongings like a free shopping mall. "I need to get to work," I said, standing up. It was Sunday. "Oh, speaking of work," Reagan piped up, "I might need to borrow some money for the move, just until my Instagram influencer career takes off." I walked to my bedroom, closed the door, and called Naomi. "Girl, you need to shut this down," she said without preamble. "I know. Then why aren't you?" I watched through my window as Lorelei's BMW pulled up, loaded with more magazines and what looked like fabric swatches. "Because I'm tired of fighting," I said. "Tired of being the bad guy. Tired of being their doormat?" "Yeah." "Then do something about it." I ended the call and opened my laptop. A new email from Caleb popped up. "Storage unit reserved, 10x15, climate controlled, first month paid, moving company on standby." Another text from Lorelei lit up my phone. "Found the perfect sectional for our living room. Only $3,000. You can put it on your credit card and we'll totally pay you back." I closed my eyes, remembering the last time they'd promised to pay me back. And the time before that. And before that. The doorbell rang. Isaiah stood there, looking uncomfortable. "Hey, cuz," he said, shuffling his feet. "Mom sent me to help with the planning." "Of course she did." I let him in. "Look, I know Lori and Ray can be intense," he started. "Intense?" I laughed. "They've already picked out curtains, furniture, and decided which bedroom is theirs. In my house. They're excited." "No, they're entitled." The words came out sharper than I intended. "And everyone enables them." Isaiah had the grace to look ashamed. "We're family." "Stop." I held up my hand. "Just stop. Being family doesn't make it okay to take advantage of someone." "Nobody's taking advantage." "Really?" I pulled out my phone and showed him my notes app. "Want to see how much money they owe me? Want to count how many times they've borrowed my clothes and never returned them? Or maybe we should talk about the time they threw a party in my apartment while I was at a funeral." Isaiah went quiet. "I'm done talking," I said finally. "It's time they listened." My phone buzzed again, a text from Aunt Rachel. "Girls are so excited about the move. Remember, family first." I looked at Isaiah. "You might want to clear your schedule for moving day. It's going to be interesting." "What are you planning?" I smiled, the same sweet smile I'd been perfecting for years. "Just helping family. Isn't that what we're supposed to do?" He looked worried, but didn't press further. Smart man. After he left, I called Caleb. "You still got that storage connection?" I asked when he picked up. "Yeah. Why?" "Because I need a favor. And I need you to keep a secret." "I'm listening." I watched another car pull up outside. Reagan with more magazines and what looked like paint samples. "Time to teach my family about boundaries," I said, "the hard way." "You can just stack those boxes in the living room," I said sweetly, watching Lorelai and Reagan haul in their 5th load of belongings. Moving day's only 2 weeks away. "This is just the first batch," Lorelai announced, dropping a box labeled designer shoes onto my couch. "We figured we'd get a head start. You know, make the actual move easier." I nodded, snapping a quick picture of the growing pile when they weren't looking. Evidence, just in case. "Oh," Reagan squealed, clapping her hands. "I had the best idea for the attic space. I could turn it into my yoga studio. I've been wanting to start teaching classes." "Last month you wanted to be a food critic," I reminded her. "That was before I discovered my spiritual path," she said, rolling her eyes. "Besides, this could be really profitable. We could charge people for classes." "In my house?" "Our house," Lorelai corrected, unpacking a crystal vase I definitely hadn't agreed to display. "Family sharing space, remember?" My phone buzzed. "Caleb. Storage unit's ready. Want to do a walkthrough?" "Can't," I typed back, watching the invasion in real time. "Need backup?" I looked up as Reagan started rearranging my bookshelf to make room for her collection of healing crystals. "Not yet, but soon." The doorbell rang. Naomi stood there with 2 cups of coffee and raised eyebrows. "Wow," she said, taking in the boxes. "They're really doing this, huh?" "Oh, hi, Naomi," Lorelai called out, not looking up from where she was measuring wall space. "We're just getting settled in. You should come to Ray's yoga classes once we're moved in." Naomi shot me a look that clearly said, "Are you kidding me?" "Actually," I said, accepting the coffee, "Naomi's helping me catalog everything that's being moved in, for insurance purposes." That got their attention. "Insurance?" Reagan asked, suddenly nervous. "Of course," I said, taking a sip of coffee. "Have to make sure everything's properly documented, in case anything gets damaged in the move." Lorelai and Reagan exchanged glances. "Speaking of the move," Lorelai said slowly, "we should probably talk about the moving truck costs. Since we're bringing most of the furniture." "Oh, don't worry about that," I smiled. "I've got it all arranged. Professional movers, insurance, everything." "Really?" Reagan brightened. "That's so generous." "That's our tiff," Lorelai grinned, going back to her measuring. "Always taking care of everyone." Naomi made a choking sound that she covered with a cough. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Isaiah. "You sure about this? They're telling everyone they're moving in with you." "Let them talk," I typed back. More boxes arrived throughout the day. Clothing, shoes, makeup, exercise equipment Reagan had never used. Lorelai's entire collection of wine glasses. With each delivery, I took careful photos and notes. "The attic's going to need better lighting for yoga," Reagan declared, coming down from her 3rd inspection, "and probably some mirrors, full-length ones. And soundproofing," Lorelai added. "For the meditation sessions." "Absolutely," I agreed. "Bring everything you need." After they finally left, Naomi helped me document the boxes. "This is insane," she said, reading labels. "Winter formal gowns? Vintage handbags? Are they moving in or opening a boutique?" "Both, probably." I sent the photos to Caleb. "How much can fit in that storage unit?" "Plenty," he texted back. "You sure about this? It's going to get ugly." I looked around my living room, now cramped with their belongings. At the crystal vase Lorelai had placed on my coffee table. At the yoga mat Reagan had forgotten to take home. "They made it ugly years ago," I replied. "I'm just finally returning the favor." That night, I got a group text from Aunt Rachel. "Girls' night planning session tomorrow. Let's discuss weekly dinner rotations once you're all moved in." Lorelai chimed in. "I'm thinking Sunday roasts. I'll teach Tiff how to cook properly. Can't wait, I replied, adding a heart emoji. Then I pulled up the moving company's number and confirmed the date and special instructions. The driver seemed confused about the destination switch, but the extra 100 I'd promised kept questions to a minimum. My phone lit up with another text from Reagan. Bringing over my aromatherapy collection tomorrow. Found the perfect spot in your room. We're going to have so much fun being roomies. I took a deep breath, smelling the lingering scent of Lorelei's perfume in my apartment. 2 more weeks, just 2 more weeks, and then they'd learn what happens when you push too far. Can't wait, I texted back. Bring everything you want to keep. Because soon, very soon, they'd learn the difference between what they wanted and what they deserved. The moving truck's here, Reagan squealed, bouncing on her toes as the large vehicle backed into their driveway. This is really happening. I stood in the morning sun, sipping my coffee, and watching the driver check his paperwork. Caleb had come through. The company had specific instructions and a hefty bonus waiting if they followed them exactly. You're being weirdly calm about all this, Lorelei said, eyeing me suspiciously. Usually you're such a control freak. Just excited to get everyone settled, I smiled, filming as the movers started loading boxes. Want to document the big day. The movers worked efficiently, loading box after box of my cousin's belongings. Designer clothes, expensive electronics, yoga equipment still in its original packaging, all carefully documented on my phone. We should follow the truck, Lorelei announced as the last box went in. Make sure everything gets there safely. Oh, I need to stop by the bank first, I said quickly. Why don't you head to the house? I'll meet you there. Perfect! We can start unpacking while we wait. Reagan was already in her car. Don't take too long. I watched them drive off, then quickly texted Caleb. They're heading to the house. Stall them. On it, he replied. Dave's ready with the truck at the storage facility. I took my time driving to my new house, taking the scenic route. My phone started buzzing 15 minutes later. Where's the truck? Lorelei demanded when I answered. We've been waiting forever. Traffic probably, I said calmly. You know how it is on moving day. Everything takes longer than expected. Another 20 minutes passed. More calls, more texts. I ignored them all. Finally, Reagan's name flashed on my screen. The tracking app says the truck is at Cedar Storage. What the hell, Tiffany? I pulled into my driveway, where both cousins stood waiting, faces red with anger. What's going on? Lorelei stormed over to my car. Why is the truck at a storage facility? I got out slowly, adjusting my sunglasses. Because that's where your stuff is going. What? Reagan's voice went shrill. This isn't funny, Tiff. It's not meant to be. I leaned against my car, feeling surprisingly calm. The unit's paid for 1 month. After that, it's your responsibility. Lorelei's face went from red to purple. You can't do this. We had an agreement. No, you had assumptions. Big difference. But all our stuff. Reagan was near tears. What about the yoga studio? You can do yoga in the storage unit, I suggested. It's climate controlled. Lorelei grabbed my arm. This is illegal. We'll sue. I gently removed her hand. Actually, I have documentation of every item you voluntarily brought to my apartment, plus video evidence of you both acknowledging the move. Want to explain to a judge why you assumed you could move into someone else's house without their permission? We're family, Reagan wailed. Exactly. And family shouldn't take advantage of family. I pulled out my phone and showed them the photos. Remember this vase? The one you brought over without asking? Or these shoes you stored in my closet? Or maybe we should talk about the credit card bills you promised to pay. I'm calling Mom, Lorelei snarled, pulling out her phone. Go ahead. I'm sure Aunt Rachel would love to hear about the party you threw in my apartment during Grandpa's funeral. That made her pause. You've got 1 month, I said quietly. After that, the storage company auctions off unpaid units. Might want to hurry. I hear designer clothes sell fast. You'll regret this, Lorelai hissed. The whole family will hear about what you did. You mean how I helped you move? How generous I was to pay for professional movers? How I made sure all your belongings were safely stored? I smiled. Go ahead. Tell everyone. Reagan was openly crying now. Where are we supposed to live? Probably wherever you were living before you decided to commandeer my house. I walked past them to my front door. I hear your mom has plenty of room. This isn't over, Lorelai called after me. Actually, it is. I turned back one last time. Oh, and I'll need my spare key back. Both copies. They stood in my driveway, speechless, as I went inside and locked the door. My phone immediately exploded with notifications. Aunt Rachel, Isaiah, various relatives demanding explanations. I ignored them all and texted Caleb instead. It's done. How'd they take it? About as well as you'd expect. I looked out my window at my cousins, now frantically calling everyone they knew. But for the first time in years, I can breathe in my own home. Worth it? I watched Lorelai and Reagan finally get in their cars, peeling out of my driveway like they were fleeing a crime scene. Ask me after the family fallout, I typed. But right now? Absolutely. 3 hours of blessed silence passed before my phone rang again. I'd been enjoying the peace, arranging my furniture exactly how I wanted it, when Reagan's number flashed on my screen. Why is there a note on our stuff? She shrieked before I could even say hello. Did you read it? I asked calmly, straightening a picture frame, one that Lorelai had always insisted was tacky. This storage unit is prepaid for 1 month. After that, it's all yours, she read, voice shaking. What kind of sick joke is this? Not a joke, just a reality check. My phone buzzed with another call. Aunt Rachel. I ignored it. We trusted you. Reagan was full-on sobbing now. We're supposed to be family. Funny how family only matters when you want something from me. Another call. Isaiah this time. Then 3 texts in rapid succession. Isaiah. Mom's having a meltdown. Isaiah. Grandma's flying in tomorrow. Isaiah. Emergency family meeting. You have to come. Great, I muttered, just as my doorbell started ringing incessantly. I peeked through the peephole to see Aunt Rachel, mascara running down her face, jabbing at my doorbell like it had personally offended her. Tiffany Marie, she shouted through the door. Open up right now. I took a deep breath and opened the door. Hi, Aunt Rachel. She burst past me into the house. How could you, after everything we've done for you? Everything you've done for me? I felt that familiar anger rising. You mean like when you told everyone I was selfish for not letting Lorelai use my car after she crashed hers? Or when you made me feel guilty for not wanting Reagan to throw parties in my apartment? We raised you like one of our own. No, I said quietly. You raised me like something you owned. Her face went white. Your mother would be ashamed. My mother would have wanted me to stand up for myself. I walked to my kitchen and pulled out a folder. Want to see the spreadsheet of everything your daughters owe me? Or should we start with the photos of my apartment after their parties? This isn't about money. You're right. It's about respect, something they've never shown me. My phone buzzed again. The family group chat was exploding. Lorelai. Hope you're happy with yourself. Reagan. My crystals could get damaged in storage. Isaiah. Grandma's plane lands at 9 a.m. Aunt Rachel. Family meeting tomorrow at 2 p.m. Everyone must attend. I muted the chat and looked at my aunt, still standing in my kitchen looking shell-shocked. You'll be there tomorrow, she said. It wasn't a question. Of course. I wouldn't miss it. After she left, I called Naomi. So, she said when she picked up, I hear World War III just started in your family. News travels fast. Girl, it's all over Facebook. Lorelai's posting cryptic status updates about betrayal and karma. Reagan's sharing quotes about toxic family members. I laughed despite myself. At least they're consistent. You okay? I looked around my quiet, peaceful house. No random clothes strewn about. No one rearranging my furniture or eating my food. No guilt trips or demands. Yeah, I said. I really am. Need backup for tomorrow's meeting? No, this is something I need to do alone. My phone buzzed with a text from Isaiah. Heads up. Reagan's talking about small claims court for emotional distress and property damage. I snorted and typed back. Tell her to go ahead. I've got receipts. The next message was from Lorelei. Hope you're ready for what's coming. You picked the wrong family to mess with. I saved the message, more evidence, and poured myself a glass of wine. My phone kept buzzing with messages and calls, but for the first time in years, I felt no obligation to answer. Instead, I walked through my house, enjoying the silence. No one's yoga mat in the corner. No one's unwashed dishes in my sink. No one's expectations weighing me down. Another text, this time from Caleb. Your cousins just tried to get into the storage unit. Security turned them away. They okay? I asked. The security guard or your cousins? Both. Guard's fine. Your cousins left screaming about lawyers. I smiled and took another sip of wine. Let them scream. One final text came through from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me open it. This is Grandma. We need to talk before tomorrow's meeting. Breakfast? 8 a.m.? I stared at the message for a long moment. Grandma had always been different from the rest. Tougher, fairer. But even she had her blind spots when it came to family. 8 a.m., I typed back, but I'm not changing my mind. Her response was immediate. Good, neither am I. Grandma was already at the diner when I arrived, a cup of black coffee in front of her and another waiting for me. She didn't look angry. If anything, she looked amused. Quite a storm you've stirred up, she said as I slid into the booth. They started it. Oh, I know. She stirred her coffee slowly. Remember when you were 10 and Lorelei convinced everyone you'd broken her new bicycle, even though she'd crashed it herself? I blinked, surprised. You knew about that? I've known about a lot of things, dear. She pulled out her phone, ancient but functional, and started scrolling through photos. Like this one. Christmas 3 years ago? The photo showed Lorelei wearing my brand new sweater, a gift I'd supposedly lost before even wearing it. You've been keeping track? Someone had to. She put her phone away. I wanted to see how long it would take you to stand up for yourself. The waitress came by with menus. We ordered. Eggs Benedict for me, blueberry pancakes for Grandma. Why didn't you say anything? I asked after the waitress left. Would you have listened? Or would you have made excuses for them like always? She had me there. The family meeting's going to be rough, she warned. Rachel's on the warpath, says you've destroyed her girls. They destroyed themselves. I just stopped enabling it. Grandma smiled, a sharp, satisfied expression. Good answer. Now tell me everything. Start with the storage unit. By the time we finished breakfast, I had Grandma laughing so hard she nearly choked on her pancakes. A month storage, she wheezed. And they have to pay after that. Oh, that's beautiful. You're not mad? Mad? Honey, I'm proud. It's about time someone taught those girls about consequences. The family meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m. at Aunt Rachel's house. I arrived exactly on time to find the living room packed with relatives. Lorelei and Reagan sat on the couch, trying their best to look wounded. Isaiah hovered awkwardly by the window. Aunt Rachel stood in the center of the room, like a prosecutor ready to present her case. Finally, she snapped as I walked in. Now we can discuss your disgraceful behavior. Can we? I sat in an empty chair, feeling calmer than I expected. Okay, let's discuss it. You abandoned your family, Reagan burst out. Left us homeless. You have a home, I pointed out, with your mother, where you were living before you tried to hijack my house. We didn't... Lorelei started, but I cut her off. Want me to show everyone the texts, the videos, the spreadsheets of everything you've borrowed and never returned? That's different, Aunt Rachel interjected. Family helps family. Really? I pulled out my phone. So when I needed help with Mom's medical bills, where was this family helps family attitude? When I worked 3 jobs to keep my apartment, did either of you offer to actually pay rent while you were staying there? The room went quiet. Or how about when I had surgery last year? Neither of you visited, but you did throw a party in my apartment while I was recovering at Naomi's. That's not... Lorelai tried again. I have pictures, I said flatly. Want to see them? Enough, Aunt Rachel's voice shook. We raised you better than this. We took you in after your mother died, and held it over my head ever since. I stood up, feeling decades of resentment finally surface. You didn't take me in out of kindness. You took me in because it looked good, because it gave you another person to control. How dare you? No, how dare you? My voice was steady, even as my hands shook. You raised your daughters to think the world owed them everything, to take whatever they wanted, to use people and call it family. That's not true. Reagan was crying again. Your stuff is in storage unit 247, I said. The code is 5591. You have exactly 27 days before they auction it off. I suggest you start moving. I turned to leave, but Lorelai's voice stopped me. You've got karma coming, sis, she said softly. Just wait. I looked back at her, at all of them. Karma's already here. It's called consequences. As I reached the door, Grandma's voice rang out, Tiffany. I turned. She was standing now, looking at the whole family. I'm having my weekly Sunday dinners at Tiffany's house from now on, she announced. Anyone who wants to attend better learn about respect first. The explosion of voices that followed us out was almost musical. Grandma linked her arm through mine as we walked to our cars. Well, she said cheerfully, that was more entertaining than my soap operas. Was it worth it? I asked. She squeezed my arm. Ask me again after they get their storage bill. Behind us, I could hear Aunt Rachel's voice rising above the chaos. But we're family! For the first time in years, that word didn't make me flinch. The first week in my house was blissfully quiet. No unexpected visitors, no borrowed clothes, no guilt trips, just peace, interrupted only by the occasional buzz of my phone showing another angry social media post from my cousins. Then Isaiah called. Reagan's really filing a lawsuit, he said without preamble. She's claiming emotional distress and property damage. I was making coffee in my kitchen. My perfectly arranged, nobody else's stuff in it kitchen. Letter. Tiff? She's serious. She's got a lawyer and everything. Good for her. I took a sip of coffee. I've got documentation of everything, including the time she borrowed my car without permission and got 3 parking tickets in my name. Silence on the other end. Then, she did what? Ask her about it. I've still got the receipts. After we hung up, I checked my email. 3 new messages from Aunt Rachel, all in caps, all about family loyalty. 2 from Lorelai with links to articles about toxic family members, irony apparently lost on her, and 1 from the storage facility. Your cousins tried to access the unit again, Caleb texted a few minutes later. Security had to escort them out. They okay? Reagan threw her healing crystals at the guard. I snorted coffee through my nose. The doorbell rang. I checked the camera, Naomi holding takeout. So, she said, walking in and setting down Chinese food, I hear you're being sued. Apparently. I grabbed plates from my perfectly organized cabinets. For emotional distress and property damage that doesn't exist. You know what this means, right? I raised an eyebrow. You've won, she grinned. They're so desperate they're making stuff up. My phone buzzed again. A group text from extended family members. Aunt Patricia. Family shouldn't treat family this way. Uncle Mike. Your mother would be ashamed. Cousin Sarah. Can't believe you'd do this to your own blood. I showed Naomi the messages. She rolled her eyes. Where were they when your cousins were taking advantage of you? Probably encouraging it. I muted the group chat. Apparently, I'm the family pariah now. Good. Naomi stabbed a piece of orange chicken. Better than being the family doormat. The next day, I came home from work to find my mailbox stuffed with printed screenshots. Every nice thing my cousins had ever done for me, compiled by Aunt Rachel. The note attached read, "See what you're throwing away?" I flipped through them. Lorelei letting me borrow a dress that she'd borrowed from me first. Reagan bringing me soup when I was sick, after crashing at my place for 2 weeks. All the favors that came with strings attached. The doorbell rang. Isaiah again. Reagan dropped the lawsuit, he said as soon as I opened the door. Let me guess. Her lawyer saw my documentation? He nodded. And the parking tickets, and the credit card statements, and the party videos. Funny how evidence works. He shifted uncomfortably. Look, I know they've been difficult. Difficult? I laughed. They tried to take over my house. They've been taking advantage of me for years, and everyone enabled it. Including me, he admitted quietly. I softened slightly. At least you can admit it. Mom's organizing a family intervention, he warned. She's getting everyone together next weekend. No? Tiff? No, I repeated firmly. I'm done with family meetings, done with interventions, done with guilt trips. They can keep their drama. I'm keeping my peace. My phone buzzed. A text from Grandma. Sunday dinner still on? Absolutely, I replied. Just us? And me? Isaiah asked hesitantly. I'd like to make things right. I studied him for a moment. He'd never been as bad as the others, just complacent. Maybe that could change. Dinner's at 6, I said finally. Don't be late. After he left, I walked through my quiet house again. Family photos I'd chosen. Furniture arranged my way. A space that was completely, utterly mine. My phone lit up with another barrage of messages, flying monkeys sent by Aunt Rachel to guilt me into compliance. I deleted them without reading. Then a final text from Lorelei. You'll regret this. Family is forever. I looked at the message for a long moment, thinking about all the years of manipulation, all the taking without giving, all the guilt trips and gaslighting. You're right, I typed back. Family is forever, but toxic relationships don't have to be. I blocked her number before she could respond. The doorbell rang again. I checked the camera, half expecting another angry relative. Instead, it was Caleb, holding coffee and wearing a concerned expression. Heard you might need backup, he said when I opened the door. Or at least caffeine. I smiled, letting him in. Both. Definitely both. Behind him, I could see Lorelei's car pulling up to the curb. Round 2 was about to begin. Lorelei didn't knock. She pressed the doorbell repeatedly like she used to do at my apartment. But this wasn't my apartment, and I wasn't that person anymore. Want me to handle it? Caleb asked, setting down his coffee. No. I straightened my shoulders. This is my house, my rules. I opened the door but blocked the entrance. Lorelei stood there, makeup perfect, smile cold. We need to talk, she said. No, we don't. Actually, we do. She held up her phone. See, Reagan might have dropped her lawsuit, but I've got my own evidence. Years of texts where you agreed to let us stay. Videos of us planning the move. Want to see how that plays in court? I smiled. Want to see the videos of you admitting you never planned to pay rent? Or the texts where you promised to pay back all the money you borrowed? Better yet, want to explain to a judge why you used my credit card without permission? Her smile faltered. You picked the wrong war, she said, echoing her earlier threat. No, you picked the wrong victim. I leaned against the doorframe. I'm not your backup plan anymore. Not your ATM, not your free storage unit or hotel or whatever else you needed me to be. After everything we've been through, You mean everything you put me through? She changed tactics, eyes welling up with tears. We're sisters, Tiff. Family. No, we're cousins who grew up together, and you're a bully who never grew up at all. The tears vanished instantly. You'll regret this. The whole family's turning against you. The family turned against me years ago, I said quietly. They just didn't notice because I never fought back. But I'm fighting now. Is that what this is? Your big revenge? No. I smiled again, genuinely this time. This is my peace. You're just mad because you're not allowed to disturb it anymore. She opened her mouth to respond, but my phone buzzed. A text from the storage facility. Unit 247 payment due in 48 hours. I showed her the screen. Better hurry. Designer clothes are hard to replace. You wouldn't. Try me. We stared at each other for a long moment, entitled Princess versus Reformed Doormat. Finally, she stepped back. This isn't over, she said, but her voice shook slightly. Actually, it is. I gestured to my security camera. And if you show up uninvited again, the police will have a lovely video to watch. She stormed off to her car, tires squealing as she left. I closed the door and turned to find Caleb watching me with something like admiration. That, he said, was impressive. My phone buzzed again. Grandma. Just heard from Rachel. Something about you threatening Lorelei with police? She showed up uninvited. I typed back. I showed her out. Good girl. See you Sunday. I'm bringing pie. Another text, this time from Isaiah. Mom's crying, Lorelei's raging, and Reagan's threatening to move to Europe. What happened? Growth, I replied. Try it sometime. Caleb handed me my coffee, now lukewarm. You okay? I thought about it. About the years of manipulation, the guilt trips, the taking and taking and taking, about how standing up for myself had cost me half my family, the half that never really cared about me anyway. Yeah, I said. I really am. My phone lit up one last time, an email notification from the storage facility. Unit 247 had been emptied. They'd finally collected their things. Want to celebrate? Caleb asked. There's a new restaurant downtown. Are you asking me out? He grinned. Depends. Are you saying yes? Before I could answer, a final text came through. From Aunt Rachel. You've broken this family. I hope you're happy. I looked around my peaceful house. At the friend who'd helped me stand my ground. At the security camera that meant I never had to be caught off guard again. At all the space that was mine alone. Actually, I typed back, I've fixed myself. The family can do what they want with that information. I blocked her number too, then turned to Caleb. Yes, to dinner. But I'm buying. Deal. He hesitated. You know they'll try again, right? People like that don't give up easily. I know. I picked up my keys, my house keys, that no one else would ever have copies of. But I don't give up easily either. Not anymore. We stepped outside into the evening air. My house stood quiet behind us. No unwanted guests, no drama, no guilt. Just peace. Hard-won, long overdue peace. Ready? Caleb asked. I locked my door, my house, my life, and smiled. Absolutely. Behind us, the security camera blinked steadily, guarding my boundaries. And for the first time in forever, I felt completely, utterly free.
The lasagna was still hot when my brother threw it at my feet. I watched the ceramic dish shatter, red sauce spreading across the kitchen tile like blood. My mother's voice cut through the silence. Clean it up, Alexandra, and make another one for your brother. He needs proper meals for his studies. My name is Alexandra, and I'm 19 years old. This is the story of how I destroyed my family and saved myself. I said this was garbage, Wyatt sneered, already heading back to his room. How's a future lawyer supposed to focus with food like this? I grabbed the paper towels, kneeling to clean up the mess. Hidden beneath the shattered dish was my half-finished scholarship essay, now soaked in marinara. 6 hours of work, ruined in seconds. But I kept my face neutral, the way I'd learned to do years ago. Sorry, I muttered, though no one was listening anymore. My mother had already followed Wyatt upstairs, probably to offer him takeout money. My phone buzzed. My boss at the cafe texting about picking up another shift. I typed back yes before she could give it to someone else. Triple shifts were killing me, but every dollar counted. Alexandra! My mother's heels clicked against the hardwood as she returned. Why haven't you started on the new lasagna yet? Your brother has a big test tomorrow. I have work in an hour. Work? She scoffed. That little cafe job? Wyatt is in law school. Law school, Alexandra. He's the family's future. She grabbed my arm, pulling me up. You just need to find a husband. Until then, you support your brother. That's what family does. I remembered the day they took my college fund. I'd just gotten my acceptance letter to the State University's engineering program. But Wyatt had also gotten into law school, and suddenly my future vanished into his tuition payments. Yes, Mother. I moved to the fridge, pulling out more ingredients. My father sat at the kitchen table, hidden behind his newspaper. He hadn't said a word during the entire incident. He never did. That's better, my mother said, and wear something nice to work. You never know when you might meet someone suitable. The moment she left, I pulled my real scholarship essay from inside my jacket. The one I'd been working on during my breaks at the cafe. The one about architecture, about building something from nothing, about escape. My father cleared his throat. For a moment, I thought he might say something, about the lasagna, about Wyatt, about anything. Instead, he just folded his newspaper and walked out. I heard Wyatt's music blasting from upstairs as I assembled the new lasagna. He was probably studying, which meant scrolling through social media while pretending to read case law. But he'd get perfect grades anyway. He always did, somehow. My phone buzzed again. Alexis from work. You coming in early again? Boss says there's a catering event. Extra tips. I looked at the clock. If I rushed the lasagna, I could make it. Every extra dollar was another step toward freedom. On my way, I texted back. The oven timer dinged just as I heard Wyatt thundering down the stairs. This better be edible, he called out. Unlike that trash from before, I set the dish on the counter, grabbed my bag, and headed for the door. Behind me, I heard my mother's voice. Alexandra, aren't you going to serve your brother? She's useless, Wyatt said through a mouthful of food. Can't even make decent lasagna. Good thing she's pretty. It's her only shot at a future. I closed the door behind me, letting their voices fade. They had no idea about the applications I'd been filling out, the practice tests I'd been taking in secret, the money I'd been hiding away. They thought I was just the family servant, the backup plan, the pretty face who needed to find a husband. But I'd learned something they hadn't. Patience is a weapon. And I was getting very, very good at wielding it. Walking to my car, I pulled out the real scholarship essay. The sauce-stained one had been a decoy. I'd learned to keep duplicates of everything important. Tomorrow, I'd polish this draft during my break. Then it would join my architecture school application, hidden in a folder labeled Wedding Pinterest Ideas on my laptop. Let them think I was searching for a husband. Let them think I was nothing but their servant. Let them think whatever they wanted. I had other plans. Girl, you look dead on your feet, Alexis said, sliding a triple espresso across the counter. How many hours did you sleep? 3, maybe 4. I tied my apron, already moving to clear tables. The morning rush was about to hit, and I needed those tips. Had to finish Wyatt's laundry after my shift last night. Heaven forbid he learns how to use a washing machine. You know this isn't normal, right? Alexis followed me, helping collect mugs. The way they treat you. I paused. Dirty dishes balanced precariously in my arms. Can we not? I need to focus on your secret architecture application, she whispered, grinning. How's that going? The dishes clattered as I set them down too quickly. Keep your voice down. If anyone from my family's circle hears... Relax, Alexis said, checking that no other employees were nearby. But seriously, you need to tell me more. Switzerland? That's huge. I pulled out my phone, showing her the program's website. ETH Zurich, one of the best architecture schools in the world. They offer full scholarships to international students if... The cafe door chimed. I shoved my phone away as Wyatt strutted in with 3 of his law school friends, all wearing matching university hoodies. My brother's eyes swept past me like I was furniture. 4 Americanos, he announced to Alexis, not bothering with pleasantries. And whatever my sister's having, she looks terrible. I'm working, Wyatt. Obviously. He smirked. Someone has to pay for my books. His friends laughed, and I felt my cheeks burn. I moved to the espresso machine, but Alexis stepped in front of me. I've got these, she said loudly. You can clean the back tables. As I wiped tables, I could hear Wyatt's voice carrying across the cafe. He was video calling someone, probably another law school friend. Nah, man, I never study, he boasted. These suckers spend all night in the library while I'm out living life, still acing everything. One of his friends chimed in. Wyatt's got a system, don't you, buddy? You know it, Wyatt laughed. Work smart, not hard. That's what separates the winners from the losers. I gripped my cleaning cloth tighter, remembering all the nights I'd heard him on similar calls in his room. Always bragging, never studying, yet somehow maintaining perfect grades. Alexandra, Wyatt called out. My cup's empty. Before I could move, Alexis appeared with fresh coffees. On the house, she said sweetly. Now please keep your voice down. Other customers are trying to work. Wyatt's face darkened, but his friends were already standing to leave. Whatever. See you at home, sis. Mom wants you to clean my room today. I've got a big paper due. After they left, Alexis found me in the storage room, hands shaking as I counted inventory. Hey, she said softly. I've got something that might help. Remember my old professor? The one who retired last year? He tutors students for standardized tests. Off the books. I looked up. I can't afford... He owes me a favor, and he loves helping students stick it to unfair systems. She handed me a piece of paper with a phone number. Call him, please. That night, I went home late after my 3rd shift. The house was quiet except for Wyatt's room, where his laptop hummed. He'd probably fallen asleep while studying again. I started cleaning, picking up empty energy drink cans and takeout containers. His laptop screen glowed with a dozen open tabs, social media, sports scores, and something that looked like an essay marketplace website. Moving the mouse to close the windows, I noticed a folder labeled Essays Purchased.docs. My heart stopped. What are you doing? I spun around. Wyatt stood in the doorway, eyes narrow. Just cleaning, I said quickly. Like Mom asked. Stay away from my laptop. He crossed the room in 2 strides, slamming it shut. Don't you have dishes to wash or something? I backed away, mind racing. Sorry, I'll go do that now. In the kitchen, I pulled out my phone and the professor's number. My hands trembled as I typed. Hi, this is Alexandra. Alexis gave me your number. I need help preparing for an exam, but it needs to be completely confidential. The response came quickly. Of course. When would you like to start? I looked toward Wyatt's room, where he was probably deleting evidence right now. Then I thought about my architecture application, about Switzerland, about freedom. As soon as possible, I wrote back. I'm ready to begin. Professor Martin's living room had become my sanctuary over the past month. Every Tuesday and Thursday, between my morning and afternoon shifts, I'd slip away to study advanced mathematics and architectural theory. Excellent work on the mock exam, he said, adjusting his reading glasses. Your spatial reasoning scores are particularly impressive. I beamed at the practice test results. Really? Indeed, though you seem distracted today. Sorry, I rubbed my eyes. Late night, had to help Wyatt prepare for a presentation. Ah yes, the famous brother. Professor Martin's tone was carefully neutral. The one whose success requires your servitude. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. Mother. Where are you? Wyatt needs his suit pressed for tomorrow's moot court. I have to go, I said, gathering my books. Double shift, then home duties. Alexandra? Professor Martin's voice stopped me at the door. You can't keep this pace forever. Something has to give. Just 3 more weeks, I said, until the application deadline. The cafe was slammed when I arrived. Alexis shot me a sympathetic look as I rushed behind the counter. Your brother was here, she said quietly, showing off his new car to his friends, the one your parents bought him for studying so hard. I focused on making drinks, trying not to think about how that car probably cost more than my entire year's salary. The same salary that helped pay for his education. Oh, and he said something charming about how you're wasting your life serving coffee. Alexis rolled her eyes. I almost poured his latte in his lap. Don't! I managed a small smile. He's not worth losing your job over. The afternoon rush kept us busy until closing. As I counted my tips, Alexis peered over my shoulder. That's it, she declared. I'm helping you finish that application tonight. My apartment. No excuses. But Wyatt's suit. Can wait. This is your future, Alex. 3 hours later, I stared at my laptop screen in Alexis's tiny studio apartment. The application form finally complete. Every grade, every recommendation letter, every carefully crafted essay. It was all there. Do it, Alexis urged, holding out a cup of tea. Hit submit. My finger hovered over the mouse. Years of dreams, months of secret preparation, countless hours of hidden study, all coming down to this moment. I clicked submit. Alexis whooped, pulling me into a hug. You did it! You actually did it! My phone buzzed again, and again, and again. 15 missed calls from my mother, 20 text messages. Oh, God! I grabbed my bag. I have to go. Text me when you get home, Alexis called as I rushed out. And Alex, I'm proud of you. The house was dark when I arrived, except for the kitchen light. My mother sat at the table, her face a mask of fury. Where have you been? Work ran late, Don't lie to me. She stood up, her heels clicking on the tile. Wyatt saw you at some apartment building, with a friend. She spat the last word like poison. I was helping Alexis with enough. She slammed her hand on the table. While you were gallivanting around, your brother had to wear an unpressed suit to his presentation. Do you know how that reflects on this family? I heard movement upstairs. Wyatt, probably listening. I'm sorry, I said automatically. It won't happen again. No, it won't. My mother moved to my bag. What's in here? What are you hiding? Nothing. I pulled it away, but not before she caught a glimpse of my architecture textbook. Her eyes narrowed. What is that? Just something I'm reading. For fun. Fun? She laughed coldly. You think you have time for fun? While your brother is building a future for this family? I heard Wyatt's door open upstairs. Give me the bag, Alexandra. No, the words slipped out before I could stop it. My mother's face went white with shock. What did you say to me? I said no. My voice was steadier now. My bag, my things. How dare you? Wyatt appeared at the bottom of the stairs, smirking. Trouble in paradise? Your sister, our mother said. has been keeping secrets. I clutched my bag tighter, thinking of the application I'd just submitted, of the future I'd just dared to reach for. Go to your room, my mother ordered. We'll discuss your attitude in the morning. I climbed the stairs, passing Wyatt, who whispered, "Nice going, sis. Real smart, making Mom angry right before my big exam week." In my room, I locked the door and pulled out my phone. One new email. "Thank you for your application to ETH Zurich School of Architecture. We will review your materials and respond within 4-6 weeks." I closed my eyes, heart pounding. The die was cast. Now all I could do was wait, and pray my family didn't discover the truth before I had a chance to escape. "Sit down." My mother's voice was ice as she gestured to the kitchen chair. It was 6 a.m., and she'd been waiting for me. "I have work. Sit." I sat. She placed my architecture textbook on the table between us. She must have searched my room while I slept. "Explain this." She tapped the book's cover. "And explain the money you've been hiding." My heart stopped. "What money?" "Don't play dumb. I found your secret bank statements. Almost $8,000. She leaned forward. "Who is he?" "He?" "The boy you're saving this money for. The one you're planning to run away with." Relief flooded through me. She'd jumped to the wrong conclusion. "There's no boy, Mother. I've just been saving my tips." "For what?" "A car," I lied quickly. "Like Wyatt's. I'm tired of taking the bus to work." She studied my face for a long moment. "And this book?" "Someone left it at the cafe. I was just curious." "Curious?" She laughed sharply. "About architecture? Don't be ridiculous, Alexandra. You can barely handle basic math." I bit my tongue, thinking of my practice test scores hidden in my locker at work. "I want you to quit that cafe job," she continued. "It's putting ideas in your head, making you forget your place." "But Wyatt's tuition." "Your father got a promotion. We can handle Wyatt's expenses now." She stood up. "It's time you focused on finding a suitable husband. I've invited Jamie for dinner tonight." "Jamie? Wyatt's friend?" "He comes from a good family. He's in law school with your brother. He'd be perfect for you." "Perfect for keeping me under their control," she meant. "I'm not quitting my job," I said quietly. Her hand slammed the table. "This isn't a discussion." "You're right, it's not." I stood up, grabbing my bag. "I'm late for work." I was halfway to the door when she called out, "If you leave now, don't bother coming back." I paused, hand on the doorknob. "We both know you won't kick me out. Who would cook Wyatt's meals?" The cafe was quiet when I arrived. Alexis took one look at my face and made me a coffee. "That bad?" She found my architecture book. I slumped against the counter. "But she thinks I'm saving money to elope with some secret boyfriend." "Well, that's good? Maybe?" "She wants me to quit working here. Says I need to focus on finding a husband." I laughed bitterly. "She's inviting Jamie over for dinner tonight." "Jamie? Isn't he the one who's always watching Wyatt like he's waiting for something?" Before I could respond, the cafe door chimed. Speaking of the devil, Jamie walked in, alone for once. "Alexandra," he said, oddly formal. "Can we talk?" Alexis squeezed my arm and disappeared into the back. "Black coffee?" I reached for a cup. "No, listen." He glanced around, then lowered his voice. "There's something happening at school. A cheating investigation. A big one." My hands froze on the coffee pot. "What does that have to do with me?" "Your brother—" He stopped as the door chimed again. Wyatt strolled in, looking smug as ever. "Jamie, there you are, man." Wyatt clapped him on the shoulder. "Ready for the ethics exam?" Jamie stepped back. "Yeah, about that. Dean Scarlett is implementing new anti-cheating measures." Wyatt's smile flickered. "So?" "So maybe we should study. Actually study. Why start now?" Wyatt laughed, but there was an edge to it. "Our system works fine. Your system, Jamie muttered. What was that? Nothing. Jamie turned to leave, then paused. See you at dinner, Alexandra. I watched them go, Jamie tense and Wyatt shooting him suspicious looks. As they left, Jamie dropped something on the counter, a small, folded note. I opened it when Alexis returned. You should know what your family's investing in. What does that mean? Alexis asked, reading over my shoulder. I don't know. But I remembered the folder on Wyatt's laptop. Essays, purchased, .docx. But I think Jamie's trying to tell me something. About Wyatt? About everything. I tucked the note into my pocket. And I think tonight's dinner just got a lot more interesting. My phone buzzed. Another angry text from my mother about tonight's dinner. About my future. About knowing my place, if she only knew. In a few weeks, I'd either have my ticket to freedom or be trapped here forever. And somehow, I had a feeling Jamie was about to play a crucial role in which way things went. Want me to come over after dinner? Alexis offered. For moral support? I shook my head. No, I need to handle this myself. I pulled out my phone to check the time until my architecture school would announce decisions. 3 weeks, 4 days, and 17 hours to go. Jamie arrived for dinner exactly on time, wearing a suit that made my mother beam with approval. Wyatt, surprisingly, was nowhere to be seen. He's running late, my mother explained, ushering Jamie to the living room. Important study group meeting. Alexandra, serve the appetizers. I brought out the cheese plate I'd prepared, noting how Jamie wouldn't meet my eyes. So, Jamie, my mother purred, tell me about your plans after law school. Actually, Mrs. He cleared his throat. There's something I need to discuss with... The front door slammed. Wyatt stormed in, face flushed with anger. You! He pointed at Jamie. What did you tell Dean Scarlett? My mother's smile froze. Wyatt, dear, what's wrong? Ask him! Wyatt threw his bag down. Ask your perfect dinner guest what he's been saying about me. Jamie stood up slowly. I didn't tell her anything, Wyatt, but she's investigating everyone. The plagiarism detection software. Plagiarism? My mother's voice rose sharply. What is he talking about, Wyatt? Nothing. Wyatt grabbed Jamie's arm. We need to talk. Now. They disappeared into the kitchen. I followed quietly, pressing against the wall to listen. You promised you'd keep quiet, Wyatt hissed. That was before I knew how deep it went. Jamie's voice was steady. Buying one essay is bad enough, but you've been selling them too, to first years. You can't prove anything. The dean already has proof. That's what today's meeting was about. My mother appeared behind me. Alexandra, stop eavesdropping and set the table. But even she paused when Wyatt's voice carried through the door. If I go down, you're going down with me. Who helped me format all those papers? I never knew they were purchased. I thought I was helping a friend study. Tell that to the ethics board. I stepped into the kitchen, unable to stay quiet. Is that how you've been getting perfect grades? Buying essays? Wyatt spun toward me. Shut up. This is none of your business. None of my business? My voice shook. My entire life has been put on hold to fund your education, and you're cheating. Alexandra! My mother grabbed my arm. How dare you accuse your brother? She's right. Jamie's words cut through the tension. I'm sorry, Mrs. Cox, but Wyatt's been cheating since first year, and now the dean knows. My mother's face went white. Get out! But get out! Jamie looked at me, then pulled something from his pocket, a USB drive. He set it on the counter. Everything's here. What he bought, what he sold. I'm sorry. After he left, the silence was deafening. My mother stared at Wyatt, who wouldn't meet her eyes. Tell me it's not true, she whispered. Mom, I can explain. My phone chimed loudly in my pocket. An email notification. From ETH Zurich. What was that? My mother's head snapped toward me. Nothing. I backed away, but Wyatt was faster. He grabbed my phone. ETH Zurich School of Architecture? He read aloud, face twisting into a sneer. What is this? My mother snatched the phone. Her eyes widened as she read. An acceptance letter to architecture school in Switzerland with a full scholarship, I said quietly. You? Wyatt laughed harshly. They accepted you? While you were buying your way through law school, I was actually studying. I grabbed my phone back. Surprise. You can't go, my mother said immediately. We won't allow it. I'm 19. You can't stop me. We're your family. Family? I laughed. Family doesn't treat their daughter like a servant. Family doesn't steal her college fund. Family doesn't— Enough! Wyatt's face was red. You think you're so smart? At least I was trying to become something. What's architecture going to get you? Nothing. It's getting me away from you. He lunged at me, but I was ready. I stepped aside, and he crashed into the counter, sending the USB drive clattering to the floor. My mother picked it up with trembling hands. I'll call your father. We'll fix this. We'll find a way. My phone chimed again. A text from Jamie. Dean Scarlett is announcing the investigation tomorrow. I'm sorry it had to be this way. There's nothing to fix, I said, heading for the stairs. Wyatt destroyed his own future, and I'm building mine. Alexandra! My mother's voice followed me up. If you leave this family— I turned at the top of the stairs. I was never really part of it, was I? In my room, I pulled out my packed suitcase, the one I'd been slowly filling for months. Switzerland was waiting. Freedom was waiting. And downstairs, I could hear my carefully planted bomb finally exploding, taking their perfect family fantasy with it. The house felt like a powder keg the next morning. My father had come home late, and I'd heard them arguing until dawn. My mother's hysterical accusations, Wyatt's defensive shouts, my father's rare but thunderous voice cutting through it all. I crept downstairs at sunrise, hoping to slip out before anyone woke, but my father sat at the kitchen table, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Sit down, Alexandra. I hesitated, then took the chair across from him. He pushed a thick envelope toward me. Your welcome packet, he said quietly, from the architecture school. It came yesterday. My hands shook as I took it. You opened it? Your mother did. He rubbed his face. Full scholarship, housing stipend, everything you'd need to start a new life. Dad, when did you get so smart? His voice cracked. When did you learn to plan all this? While we were— He trailed off, guilt heavy in his eyes. While you were focused on Wyatt? He flinched. I failed you. Yes, I said simply. You did. The stairs creaked. Wyatt, looking hungover and desperate. Dad, please, you have to call Dean Scarlett. Tell her it's all a mistake. A mistake? My father's voice went cold. Like the mistake of buying essays or selling them to other students? I had to. Wyatt slammed his hands on the table. Everyone does it. The pressure. The pressure? I stood up. Try working 3 jobs while studying in secret. Try watching your dreams get handed to someone else. Try— Shut up. Wyatt grabbed my welcome packet. You think you're better than me? You're nothing. Just a waitress with delusions of— My father's hand slammed the table. Enough! We both froze. I'd never heard him yell like that. Give your sister her papers, he ordered Wyatt. Now. But Dad. Now! Wyatt threw the envelope at me. Fine. Take your precious acceptance. But when you fail in Switzerland, don't come crawling back. Like you're failing here? I caught the envelope. At least my achievements are real. He lunged for me again. but my father caught his arm. "Don't," my father warned. "You've done enough damage." My mother appeared in the doorway, still in yesterday's clothes. "Alfred, please, we can fix this. We can pay the school, explain that Wyatt was under stress." "No." My father's voice was firm. "No more fixing, no more excuses." "But he's our son, and she's our daughter," he gestured at me, "the one we've been treating like a servant, the one who's somehow stronger than all of us." My phone buzzed, Alexis texting about my shift, but there was also an email from the dean's office, copied to all law students. Mandatory assembly today regarding academic integrity violations. Wyatt's phone buzzed with the same message. His face went pale. "I have to go," he whispered. "Maybe I can talk to her before—" "You're not going anywhere," my father said. "You're going to sit here and face what you've done." "Like hell I am." Wyatt grabbed his keys. "I'm not letting some stupid ethics board ruin my life." He stormed out. Moments later, his car screeched down the driveway. My mother collapsed into a chair, sobbing. What will people say? What about his future? What about Alexandra's future? My father asked quietly. She looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. "You really got accepted? On your own?" "Yes." I held up the welcome packet. "Everything I've done, I did on my own. But you're just what, Mother? Just the backup plan? Just the pretty face who needs a husband?" I grabbed my bag. "I have to get to work. My last shift at the cafe." "Last shift?" my father asked. "My flight to Switzerland leaves next week." I headed for the door, then turned back. "By the way, there's a letter for you in my room, explaining everything, in case you ever wondered why I did this." "Alexandra, wait!" my mother called, but I was already gone. Outside, the morning sun felt different somehow. Brighter, cleaner. My phone buzzed again, Jamie this time. "Dean Scarlett's going public in an hour. Wyatt just tried to break into her office. Security caught him." I typed back, "Thank you for everything." "You're welcome. And Alexandra, you're going to do amazing things in Switzerland." I got in my car, looking back at the house one last time. Through the window, I could see my parents, my mother crying, my father holding my welcome packet like it was made of glass. Let them read it. Let them finally see what they'd done. Let them live with the consequences of their choices, just as I'd lived with mine. My phone buzzed one more time. "Alexis, ready for your last day of serving coffee?" I smiled, starting the engine. Ready for my first day of freedom. The news broke during my final shift at the cafe. Alexis and I watched it unfold on Twitter. Major cheating scandal rocks law school. Then, multiple students expelled, ringleader identified. And finally, the headline that changed everything. Dean expels top student for running essay selling scheme. My phone exploded with notifications. First from Jamie. "It's done. Wyatt tried to delete evidence, but IT recovered everything." Then from my father. "Come home, please, we need to talk." And finally my mother. "What have you done to this family? You okay?" Alexis touched my arm. Before I could answer, the cafe door burst open. Wyatt stormed in, face contorted with rage. "You!" He pointed at me. "You planned this. You and Jamie set me up." Customers turned to stare. I stepped behind the counter, putting distance between us. "You set yourself up, Wyatt. I just stopped covering for you." "Covering for me? You're my sister. You're supposed to support me." "Like you supported me?" I kept my voice steady. "When they took my college fund? When they made me work 3 jobs to pay for your fake education?" He lunged for the counter, but Alexis was faster. She grabbed the phone. "One more step and I'm calling the police." "The police?" He laughed hysterically. My life is already over. Expelled, blacklisted. Do you know what this means? It means you face consequences, I said. Finally. The cafe door opened again. My parents rushed in, my father immediately grabbing Wyatt's arm. That's enough! His voice boomed through the cafe. You're making a scene. A scene? My mother's mascara was streaked with tears. Our son's life is ruined, and you're worried about a scene? Your son ruined his own life, I said quietly. And mine too. For a while. How dare you! She stepped toward me, but my father held her back. No, Presley, she's right. The cafe had gone silent. Every customer watched our family drama unfold like a daytime soap opera. Right, my mother's voice rose. She destroyed everything we built, everything we sacrificed for. You sacrificed me, I said. Not yourselves. Never yourselves. We gave you everything. You gave Wyatt everything. You gave me orders. Wyatt broke free from my father's grip. At least they believed in me. What are you? Just a coffee girl with delusions of... A full scholarship to ETH Zurich, Alexis cut in. One of the top architecture schools in the world. While working 3 jobs and dealing with your abuse. That's who she is. My mother's face went blank. You're really leaving? For Switzerland? My flight's next week. I untied my apron. My last shift was officially over. I would have told you sooner, but... Well, you never asked about my dreams. Not once. Because we knew what was best for you. My mother grabbed my arm. You can't just leave your family. Watch me. I pulled away, walking around the counter. Customers parted like the Red Sea, creating a path to the door. Alexandra, please, my father called. We can fix this. As a family. I turned back one last time. You had 18 years to be a family. You chose to be a fan club for Wyatt instead. You ungrateful. Wyatt started forward again, but this time multiple customers stood up, forming a barrier between us. I think you should leave, an elderly man said firmly. All of you, except her. He nodded at me. My mother looked around, suddenly aware of their audience. Her face flushed with embarrassment. This isn't over, she hissed. Yes, it is. I picked up my bag. My shift is done. My time as your servant is done. Everything is done. Alexis appeared beside me with her car keys. Need a ride? Actually, Jamie's voice came from the doorway. I've got that covered. He stood there with his own keys, looking apologetically at Wyatt. I'm sorry it came to this, man, but she deserves her shot. You're both dead to me, Wyatt spat. Better dead to you than living for you, I said. I walked out with Jamie and Alexis, leaving my family standing in the cafe. Through the window, I saw my father sink into a chair, head in his hands. My mother stood frozen, mascara still running. And Wyatt looked lost, like a puppet whose strings had finally been cut. Where to? Jamie asked as we got in his car. I pulled out my welcome packet, the one thing I'd fought so hard to achieve. The airport. I need to confirm my flight details. A week early? No. I looked back at the cafe one last time. I'm changing my ticket. I'm done waiting. As we pulled away, I saw my mother run out, calling my name. But her voice faded into the distance, replaced by the sound of freedom approaching. Next stop, Switzerland. The Swiss autumn air was crisp as I walked across ETH Zurich's campus, my architecture models tucked safely in my portfolio. My phone buzzed, Alexis calling on video chat. Ready for your big presentation? Her familiar face filled the screen. As ready as I'll ever be. I adjusted my blazer. How's the cafe? Different without you, but guess who came in yesterday? My steps slowed. Who? Your dad. He asked for your address again. I sighed. What did you tell him? Same thing as always. That it's not my place to give it out. She paused. He looked rough, Alex. Said your mom had to start working at the mall after they sold the house. And Wyatt? Delivering groceries, last I heard. Jamie says he's taking online classes at community college now, actually studying this time. I reached the presentation hall, where my architectural models waited. I have to go. Final review in 10 minutes. Wait! Alexis's voice stopped me. There's something else. Your dad left this. She held up an envelope. Through the video, I could make out my name in my father's handwriting. Should I open it? I hesitated. The last letter I'd gotten from them, 3 months ago, was full of my mother's accusations and Wyatt's bitter words. But this one was just from Dad. Read it. Alexis opened the envelope. Dear Alexandra, I found your old sketchbooks in the attic while packing up the house, the ones you used to hide under your mattress. All those beautiful buildings you drew, all those dreams we ignored. She paused, wiping her eyes. I'm sorry it took losing everything to see what was right in front of us. I'm sorry we made you hide your light. I'm sorry I was a coward. My throat tightened. Is there more? Just this. I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know that somewhere in Switzerland, there's a father who finally understands what he lost, and he's proud of you. Love, Dad. The presentation hall door opened. My professor poked her head out. Alexandra, we're ready. Go, Alexis said. Show them what you can do. I walked into the hall where the review board waited. My final project, a community centre designed to transform abandoned spaces into places of learning and growth, stood on the presentation table. As I began my presentation, my phone buzzed one last time. A text from Jamie. Your mum came to the law school today. She's been going around warning parents about the cost of favouritism. I think she finally gets it. I put my phone away and faced the review board. This project is about transformation, I began, about taking broken systems and building something new, something better. One of the professors leaned forward. And what inspired this design? I thought about my father's letter, about my mother's warnings, about Wyatt's fall and slow rebuild, about all the nights I spent hiding my dreams. I grew up in a house that looked perfect from the outside, I said, but inside, it was full of rot. This design is about creating spaces where no one has to hide, where everyone's potential matters. The board members exchanged looks. The head professor smiled. Tell us more. As I walked them through my design, I thought about karma, about justice, about the price of freedom. My family had built their dreams on my back, and when I stepped away, everything collapsed. But here I was, building something new, something real. My phone buzzed again in my bag. Probably Alexis, or Jamie, or maybe even my father again. They were all part of my story, but they weren't my whole story anymore. I pointed to the central atrium in my model, where light streamed through carefully placed windows. In architecture, we learn that the strongest structures are the ones built on honest foundations. You can't create something lasting from lies and shortcuts, the head professor nodded. And what happens to the broken pieces? In your design? I smiled, thinking of Wyatt in his delivery uniform, of my mother warning other parents, of my father finally finding my hidden sketchbooks. We don't throw them away, I said. We transform them. We learn from them, and sometimes that's the greatest design of all. The board started clapping. Through the presentation hall windows, I could see the Swiss Alps rising against the autumn sky. My future, built on my own honest foundation, stretched out before me. And somewhere back home, in a much smaller house, my family was learning to build something honest too. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But maybe it was the beginning of understanding. And for now, that was enough.
You're a pathetic excuse for a wife, Savannah. I don't know why I ever married you. Ethan's words cut deep, his contempt palpable. If only he knew the depths of my resolve, the meticulous planning I've poured into my impending revenge. Oh, Ethan, I think to myself, you're about to reap what you've sown. Our marriage wasn't always this way. In the beginning, Ethan was charming, attentive, and I truly believed we had a future together. But as the years passed, his controlling nature began to surface. It started with small criticisms, subtle jabs at my cooking or the way I kept the house. I brushed it off, determined to be the perfect wife. "Savannah, can't you do anything right?" Ethan's voice echoes through the kitchen as I scramble to prepare dinner after a long day at work. I slave away all day to provide for this family, and this is what I come home to? I bite my tongue, knowing that any attempt to defend myself will only make matters worse. Instead, I focus on setting the table, ensuring everything is just so. Lily, our 5-year-old daughter, watches from the doorway, her eyes wide with uncertainty. Ethan's behavior only escalates over time. He questions my every move, belittles my accomplishments, and makes me doubt my own abilities as a wife and mother. I find myself walking on eggshells, constantly trying to anticipate his moods and avoid triggering his anger. "Mommy, why is Daddy always yelling?" Lily asks one evening as I tuck her into bed. Her innocent question breaks my heart. "Sometimes grown-ups have disagreements, sweetie," I explain, trying to keep my voice steady. "But it's not your fault, okay? Mommy and Daddy both love you very much." Despite the turmoil at home, I strive to maintain a sense of normalcy for Lily's sake. I take her to the park, read her bedtime stories, and do everything in my power to shield her from the growing tension between Ethan and me. But even my best efforts can't protect me from Ethan's increasingly volatile temper. One night, during a particularly heated argument, he corners me in the bedroom, his face inches from mine. "You're lucky I put up with you," he seethes, his breath hot against my skin. "No one else would tolerate your incompetence." Fear grips my heart as I realize the gravity of my situation. I can't continue living like this, constantly under Ethan's thumb. I need to find a way out, not just for myself but for Lily's future. That's when I begin to plan my escape. I start quietly documenting Ethan's abusive behavior, keeping a hidden journal of every cruel word and intimidating action. I know I'll need evidence if I'm ever going to break free from this toxic marriage. Little by little, I start squirreling away money, opening a secret bank account that Ethan knows nothing about. I reach out to my best friend, Naomi, confiding in her about the hell I've been living. She becomes my lifeline, my confidant, and my strength. "You deserve so much better, Savannah," Naomi tells me over coffee one afternoon. "You're a strong, capable woman, and you don't have to put up with Ethan's abuse any longer." Her words ignite a fire within me, a determination to reclaim my life and my dignity. I know the road ahead won't be easy, but I'm ready to fight for my freedom and for the future Lily deserves. As I sit across from Ethan at the dinner table, watching him scowl at the meal I've prepared, I feel a flicker of satisfaction knowing that his reign of terror is about to come to an end. He has no idea what's coming, but I do, and I'm ready to watch him burn. Ethan's promotion at work brings a new level of stress into our already strained marriage. Instead of celebrating his success, he becomes even more critical of my every move. I find myself constantly on edge, trying to anticipate his demands and avoid his wrath. "Savannah, the house is a mess!" Ethan barks as he storms through the front door one evening. "What have you been doing all day?" I glance around the living room, taking in the scattered toys and the pile of unfolded laundry. Between working part-time, caring for Lily, and managing the household, I barely have a moment to breathe. "I'm sorry, Ethan," I say, my voice trembling. "I'll tidy up right away." "You're sorry?" he scoffs. "That's all you ever say. When are you going to step up and be a real wife and mother?" His words sting, but I swallow my tears and set to work, desperately trying to meet his impossible standards. Lily watches from the couch, her little face etched with worry. As the days pass, Ethan's criticism only intensifies. He nitpicks every aspect of my parenting, from the way I dress Lily to the meals I prepare for her. "You're coddling her," he accuses when I comfort Lily after a nightmare. "She needs to learn to toughen up." "She's just a child, Ethan," I protest, holding Lily close. "And you're just a pathetic excuse for a mother," he retorts, his words dripping with venom. I feel like I'm suffocating under the weight of Ethan's constant belittling. I struggle to balance my work at the boutique with my duties at home, knowing that any slip-up will incur his wrath. One afternoon, I'm running late picking Lily up from daycare after a particularly busy shift. When I finally arrive, I find Ethan waiting outside, his face contorted with anger. "Where the hell have you been?" he demands, grabbing my arm and yanking me towards him. "I'm sorry, there was a problem with a shipment at work," I explain, wincing at his tight grip. "I don't want to hear your excuses," he seethes. "You're a failure as a wife and a mother. I don't know why I ever married you." His words cut me to the core, and I feel a wave of hopelessness wash over me. How did my life become this nightmare? That night, after Lily is asleep, that Ethan's rage reaches a boiling point. He corners me in the kitchen, his face inches from mine. "You think you can just disrespect me like this?" He growls, his hand gripping the back of my neck. "I provide for this family, and this is the thanks I get?" Fear courses through my veins as I feel his fingers tighten, his breath hot against my cheek. For a terrifying moment, I'm certain he's going to hit me. "Ethan, please," I whisper, my voice barely audible. "You're hurting me." Something in my tone must register, because he releases his grip, shoving me away from him. "You're not worth it," he spits before storming out of the room. I sink to the floor, my body shaking with silent sobs. I can't live like this anymore, constantly walking on eggshells, fearing for my safety and Lily's well-being. With trembling hands, I reach for my phone and dial Naomi's number. She answers on the first ring, her voice filled with concern. "Savannah, what's wrong?" she asks, sensing my distress. "I can't do this anymore, Naomi," I choke out. "I need to leave him." "I'm here for you," she says firmly. "We'll figure this out together." As I end the call, a flicker of hope ignites within me. I know the path ahead will be treacherous, but I'm determined to break free from Ethan's tyranny. I'll do whatever it takes to protect myself and Lily, even if it means risking everything. With renewed resolve, I begin to plan my escape, documenting every moment of Ethan's abuse. He may think he has the upper hand, but he has no idea what's coming. I'll make him pay for every ounce of pain he's inflicted upon me. This is just the beginning of my revenge. "You need to leave him, Savannah," Naomi urges, her voice filled with concern. We're sitting in a quiet corner of our favorite coffee shop, a place that has become my sanctuary away from Ethan's constant criticism. I stir my latte, watching the foam swirl on the surface. "It's not that simple, Naomi. I don't have the means to support myself and Lily on my own." Naomi reaches across the table, her hand covering mine. "You can't keep living like this. It's not safe for you or your daughter." Deep down, I know she's right. Ethan's behavior has escalated to the point where I fear for my physical safety. But the thought of leaving, of starting over, is overwhelming. I don't even know where to begin, I confess, my voice barely above a whisper. "Start by documenting everything," Naomi advises. "Keep a record of every abusive incident, every threat. It'll be important when you file for divorce." Divorce. The word feels foreign on my tongue, a concept I never thought I'd have to consider. But as I sit there, the weight of my reality bearing down on me, I realize it may be my only option. "I'm scared, Naomi," I admit, tears pricking the corners of my eyes. "What if he tries to take Lily away from me?" Naomi squeezes my hand, her gaze fierce. "We won't let that happen. You're a fantastic mother, Savannah. Any judge would see that." Her words give me a glimmer of hope, a tiny spark in the darkness that has become my life. I take a deep breath, steeling myself for the battle ahead. "Okay," I say, my voice growing stronger. "I'll start gathering evidence, but I need to be careful. If Ethan finds out—" I trail off, the unspoken fear hanging heavy in the air. Naomi nods, understanding the gravity of the situation. "We'll take it one step at a time," she assures me, "and I'll be here for you every step of the way." With Naomi's support, I begin my secret mission. I document every cruel word, every threatening gesture. I take photos of the bruises on my arms, the holes punched in the walls during Ethan's fits of rage. At night, while Ethan sleeps, I research divorce laws and custody arrangements. I create a secret email account, reaching out to domestic violence hotlines for advice. But even as I take these steps towards freedom, the fear never quite leaves me. Ethan's presence looms large, his anger always simmering just beneath the surface. One evening, as I'm putting away laundry in our bedroom, Ethan bursts through the door, his face contorted with rage. "Who were you talking to on the phone earlier?" he demands, his eyes narrowing. My heart races, my mind scrambling for an explanation. It was just a client from work, I lie, hoping my voice doesn't betray me. Don't lie to me, Savannah, he growls, taking a step closer. I heard you whispering. Are you trying to leave me? Is that what this is about? Panic rises in my throat, but I force myself to remain calm. Of course not, Ethan, I would never. Before I can finish my sentence, he's on me, his hands gripping my shoulders, shaking me violently. If you even think about leaving, I'll make sure you never see Lily again. He seethes, his face inches from mine. You're nothing without me, Savannah. Nothing. Tears stream down my face as I nod, my body trembling with fear. Ethan releases me, shoving me away with disgust. Remember your place? He spits before storming out of the room. I sink to the floor, my breath coming in ragged gasps. In that moment, I realize the true depth of Ethan's cruelty, the lengths he'll go to maintain control. But even as fear threatens to consume me, a flicker of determination ignites within. I won't let him break me. I won't let him win. With renewed resolve, I continue my secret preparations, my heart set on the day when I'll finally be free from Ethan's tyranny. He may think he has me trapped, but he has no idea what's coming. I'll make him regret every moment of pain he's caused me, every tear he's forced me to shed. This is just the beginning of my revenge, and I won't stop until justice is served. The revelation of Ethan's affair hits me like a ton of bricks. I stare at the credit card statement in disbelief, my eyes fixated on the charges for a romantic getaway at a luxury resort, a getaway that I certainly didn't attend. Fury courses through my veins as I realize the extent of Ethan's betrayal. Not only has he been unfaithful, but he's been using our joint account to fund his indiscretions. I confront him that evening, the statement clutched in my trembling hand. Who is she, Ethan? I demand, my voice shaking with anger. Ethan looks up from his laptop, his expression a mix of surprise and annoyance. What are you talking about? I slam the statement down on the table. Don't play dumb with me. You've been having an affair and you've been using our money to pay for it. For a moment, Ethan is silent, his eyes scanning the damning evidence. Then, to my shock, he laughs. Oh, Savannah, he sneers. Did you really think I'd be satisfied with a wife like you? Arya understands me in ways you never could. The casual cruelty of his words takes my breath away. I feel like I've been punched in the gut, the wind knocked out of me. How long? I manage to choke out, tears blurring my vision. Ethan shrugs, his indifference a dagger to my heart. A few months. Not that it's any of your business. Not my business? I explode, my voice rising to a shout. You're my husband, Ethan. We have a child together. How could you do this to us? He stands abruptly, his chair scraping against the hardwood floor. Don't play the victim, Savannah. You drove me to this with your constant nagging and inadequacy. I reel back as if slapped, his words cutting deeper than any physical blow. In that moment, I realize the man I married, the man I thought I loved, is a complete stranger. I want a divorce, I say, my voice barely above a whisper. Ethan's eyes narrow, his face twisting into a sneer. You'll get nothing from me, Savannah. I'll make sure of that. He storms out of the room, leaving me alone with the shattered remnants of our marriage. I sink to the floor, my body shaking with sobs. But even as despair threatens to consume me, a flicker of rage ignites within. I won't let Ethan destroy me. I won't let him win. With a newfound sense of purpose, I begin to plan my revenge. I gather evidence of Ethan's affair, screenshots of incriminating texts and emails. I document every penny he's spent on his mistress, every lie he's told. I reach out to a lawyer, a fierce woman named Julia who specializes in high-conflict divorces. She listens to my story with a steely determination, her eyes flashing with anger on my behalf. We'll make him pay, Savannah, she assures me. He won't get away with this. Bolstered by Julia's support, I begin to lay the groundwork for my escape. I secretly start saving money, squirreling away cash whenever I can. I research apartments and job openings, determined to build a new life for myself and Lily. But even as I take these steps towards freedom, Ethan's cruelty knows no bounds. He flaunts his affair, leaving love notes from Arya scattered around the house. He drains our accounts, leaving me with barely enough to feed our daughter. One night, as I tuck Lily into bed, she looks up at me with wide, innocent eyes. Mommy, why are you and Daddy always fighting? My heart breaks at the confusion and fear in her voice. I smooth her hair back from her forehead, forcing a smile. Everything's going to be okay, sweetheart. I promise. And I mean it. I'll do whatever it takes to protect my child, to give her the life she deserves, even if it means destroying Ethan in the process. As I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, I feel a sense of calm wash over me. Ethan may think he has the upper hand, but he has no idea what's coming. I'll make him regret every moment of pain he's caused, every tear he's forced me to shed. This is just the beginning of my revenge, and I won't stop until he's left with nothing but the ashes of his own destruction. We have a strong case, Savannah, Marcus assures me, his voice steady and confident. We're sitting in his office, the evidence of Ethan's misdeeds spread out before us. I nod, my heart racing with a mix of fear and anticipation. I want to make sure Lily and I are protected, I say, my voice trembling slightly. I can't let Ethan hurt us anymore. Marcus leans forward, his eyes filled with compassion. I'll do everything in my power to ensure that you and your daughter are safe. Ethan won't get away with this. With Marcus's guidance, I begin the process of building a case against Ethan. I gather bank statements and phone records, anything that can prove his infidelity and financial betrayal. Naomi is my rock throughout it all, offering me a place to stay when the tension at home becomes unbearable. She helps me search for apartments and jobs, determined to give me a fresh start. You're doing the right thing, Savannah, she tells me one evening as we share a bottle of wine. You deserve so much better than Ethan. I smile, feeling a glimmer of hope for the first time in years. Thank you, Naomi. I couldn't do this without you. But even as I take steps towards freedom, Ethan's cruelty reaches new heights. He cancels my credit cards, leaving me without access to our joint accounts. He threatens to take Lily away from me, to paint me as an unfit mother in court. One afternoon, as I'm picking Lily up from school, Ethan corners me in the parking lot. His eyes are wild, his face contorted with rage. You think you can just leave me? He seethes, grabbing my arm. I'll destroy you, Savannah. I'll make sure you never see Lily again. I wrench my arm away, my heart pounding in my chest. You don't scare me anymore, Ethan. I'm done being your punching bag. He lunges towards me, but I'm faster. I dodge his grasp, scooping Lily up into my arms and running towards the car. This isn't over, Ethan shouts after me, his voice echoing in the empty lot. You'll regret this, Savannah. But I don't look back. I buckle Lily into her car seat, my hands shaking as I turn the key in the ignition. Where are we going, Mommy? Lily asks, her voice small and frightened. Somewhere safe, baby, I promise her. Somewhere where Daddy can't hurt us anymore. That night, holed up in a hotel room, I make the final preparations for my escape. I transfer all the evidence against Ethan to a secure cloud account, ensuring that he can't destroy it. I draft a letter to his boss, detailing his affair with his coworker and the way he's been embezzling company funds. I include copies of the incriminating emails and texts, the proof of his deceit. With a sense of grim satisfaction, I hit send, knowing that Ethan's carefully crafted facade is about to come crashing down. The next morning, I drop Lily off at Naomi's, giving her a tight hug and a promise to return soon. Then I head to the courthouse, my heart in my throat. Marcus is waiting for me, a thick folder in his hands. Are you ready? He asks, his voice gentle. I take a deep breath, squaring my shoulders. I'm ready. Together we walk into the courtroom, the evidence of Ethan's misdeeds laid out before the judge. I watch as Ethan's face turns from smug confidence to disbelief, then to outright fury. But it's too late. The judge grants me a temporary restraining order, barring Ethan from coming near me or Lily. She orders him to vacate our home, to surrender his keys and credit cards. As we leave the courthouse, I feel a weight lift from my shoulders. For the first time in years, I can breathe again. Ethan may have thought he could break me, but he underestimated my strength. He underestimated the power of a mother's love, the depths of my determination. This is just the beginning of my revenge, and I won't stop until Ethan is left with nothing but the ashes of his own destruction. He'll learn the hard way that no one messes with Savannah and gets away with it. The day of reckoning arrives, and I feel a sense of calm wash over me as I enter our home, the divorce papers clutched tightly in my hand. Ethan is sitting in the living room, his eyes glued to the television screen. We need to talk, I say, my voice steady and clear. Ethan looks up, his expression a mix of annoyance and boredom. What is it now, Savannah? I'm busy. I tossed the divorce papers onto the coffee table, watching as they slide to a stop in front of him. I know everything, Ethan. Your affair with Arya, the money you've been stealing from our accounts. It's over. For a moment, Ethan is silent, his face a mask of shock. Then slowly his features contort into a sneer. You don't have the guts to leave me, Savannah. You're nothing without me. I laugh, the sound harsh and bitter. That's where you're wrong, Ethan. I'm stronger than you ever gave me credit for, and I have proof of all your lies and betrayals. I pull out my phone, showing him the screenshots of his incriminating texts and emails. I watch as the color drains from his face, his eyes widening with fear. You bitch, he snarls, lunging towards me. You'll pay for this. But I'm ready for him. I step aside, letting him stumble past me. No, Ethan, you're the one who's going to pay. I've already sent copies of everything to your boss and to the authorities. Your days of hurting me and Lily are over. Ethan's face twists with rage, his fists clenching at his sides. You think you can just walk away from me? I'll destroy you, Savannah. I'll make sure you never see a dime of my money. I smile, a sense of triumph washing over me. I don't want your money, Ethan. I want my freedom, and I'm taking Lily with me. I turn to walk away, but Ethan grabs my arm, his fingers digging into my skin. You're not going anywhere, he growls, his breath hot against my face. But I'm done being afraid. I wrench my arm away, my eyes blazing with fury. Touch me again, and I'll have you arrested for assault. I'm done being your victim, Ethan. I'm done letting you control me. I walk out the door, my head held high. I can hear Ethan shouting after me, his voice filled with rage and desperation. But I don't look back. I climb into my car, where Lily is waiting for me, her little face filled with confusion and fear. It's okay, baby. I soothe her, buckling her into her car seat. Mommy's here. We're going to be okay. As I drive away, I feel a sense of relief wash over me. The road ahead won't be easy, but for the first time in years, I'm in control of my own destiny. The next few weeks are a blur of legal proceedings and emotional upheaval. Ethan fights me every step of the way, trying to paint me as an unfit mother and a vindictive ex-wife. But Marcus is a force to be reckoned with, presenting the evidence of Ethan's misdeeds with a calm and steady hand. The judge listens intently, her eyes narrowing with each revelation. In the end, the truth wins out. I'm granted full custody of Lily, along with a generous settlement from Ethan's assets. The judge also orders Ethan to attend anger management classes and substance abuse counseling, a requirement for any future visitation with his daughter. As we leave the courtroom, Ethan's face is a mask of defeat and humiliation. He tries to approach me, his eyes filled with a desperate plea. Savannah, please, he begs, his voice cracking. I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. But I shake my head, my heart hardened by years of pain and betrayal. It's too late, Ethan. You made your choices and now you have to live with the consequences. I take Lily's hand, leading her out of the courthouse and into the bright sunlight. For the first time in years, I feel a sense of hope and possibility. Ethan may have thought he could break me, but he underestimated my strength. He underestimated the power of a mother's love, the depths of my determination. This is just the beginning of my new life, and I won't let anyone stand in the way of my happiness. Ethan will learn the hard way that karma always comes back around, and I'll be there to watch him fall. The divorce proceedings are a battlefield, with Ethan using every dirty trick in the book to paint me as an unfit mother and a vindictive ex-wife. He twists the truth, spinning lies and half-truths, to anyone who will listen. But I refuse to sink to his level. I hold my head high, my evidence speaking louder than any false accusation. In the courtroom, Ethan's true colors are on full display. He lashes out at me, his voice dripping with venom and contempt. She's an unfit mother, Your Honor, he declares, pointing an accusing finger in my direction. She's unstable, emotionally abusive. She's trying to turn my own daughter against me. I feel a white-hot rage building inside me, but I force myself to remain calm. I know the truth will come out. Marcus presents our case with a steady hand, laying out the evidence of Ethan's abuse, his affair, and his financial misdeeds. He calls witness after witness, each one corroborating my story. Ethan's lawyer tries to discredit me, to paint me as a liar and a gold digger, but under Marcus's skillful questioning, the truth becomes clear. In the end, The judge sees through Ethan's lies. She grants me full custody of Lily, along with a generous settlement from Ethan's assets. Mr. Harrington, she says, her voice stern and unyielding, your behavior throughout these proceedings has been reprehensible. You have shown a blatant disregard for the well-being of your child and a complete lack of remorse for your actions. Ethan's face turns red, his fists clenching at his sides, but he knows he's been beaten. As we leave the courtroom, I feel a sense of relief wash over me. It's finally over. I'm free. But my relief is short-lived. The next day, I receive a call from Ethan's boss, his voice filled with shock and anger. Savannah, I just wanted to let you know that we've terminated Ethan's employment, effective immediately. The evidence you provided was irrefutable. We cannot tolerate such behavior from our employees. I feel a twinge of satisfaction, knowing that Ethan is finally facing the consequences of his actions. But I also feel a sense of sadness, knowing that his downfall is a result of his own choices. The news of Ethan's termination spreads like wildfire, and soon the whole town is buzzing with gossip. Everywhere I go, I feel the stares and whispers, the pity and the judgment, but I hold my head high, knowing that I did what I had to do to protect myself and my daughter. I refuse to let the opinions of others define me. As the weeks pass, I begin to rebuild my life. I find a new job, a small boutique where I can put my fashion skills to use. I enroll Lily in a new school, where she thrives and makes new friends. Slowly but surely, the wounds begin to heal. The pain and the anger start to fade, replaced by a sense of hope and possibility. But even as I move forward, I can't help but feel a sense of unease. I know that Ethan won't go down without a fight. I know that he'll stop at nothing to make me pay for what he sees as my betrayal. One evening, as I'm leaving work, I find a note taped to my car window. My heart stops as I read the words scrawled in Ethan's familiar handwriting. You think you've won, but this isn't over. I'll make you regret the day you ever crossed me. I feel a chill run down my spine, but I refuse to let fear control me. I crumple the note in my fist, tossing it aside. I know that the road ahead won't be easy. I know that Ethan will continue to try to hurt me, to make me pay for my perceived sins. But I also know that I'm stronger than he ever gave me credit for. I know that I have the love and support of my daughter, my friends, and my family. And I know that in the end, the truth will always win out. Ethan may have thought he could break me, but he underestimated the power of a woman scorned. This is just the beginning of my new life, and I won't let anyone stand in the way of my happiness. Ethan will learn the hard way that karma always comes back around, and I'll be there to watch him fall. Life after the divorce is a journey of rediscovery, a chance to rebuild and redefine myself on my own terms. Lily and I settle into our new apartment, decorating it with bright colors and happy memories. At first, the transition is difficult. Lily misses her father, and I struggle with the guilt of tearing apart our family. But as the weeks pass, I watch my daughter blossom, her smile returning and her laughter filling our home. My job at the boutique becomes a source of pride and accomplishment. I pour my heart into my work, and soon I'm promoted to assistant manager. Naomi remains a constant source of support, always ready with a listening ear and a shoulder to cry on. She helps me navigate the challenges of single motherhood, and together we create a new normal for ourselves and our children. But even as I thrive in my new life, I can't escape the shadow of Ethan's anger and resentment. He lashes out in small ways, leaving angry voicemails and sending threatening texts. One evening, as I'm leaving work, I find him waiting for me in the parking lot. His eyes are bloodshot, his face twisted with rage. You think you've won, but you're wrong, he snarls, grabbing my arm. I'll make you pay for what you've done. I wrench my arm away, my heart pounding in my chest. Leave me alone, Ethan. It's over. But he doesn't listen. He lunges towards me, his fists clenched. I scream, bracing myself for the impact. Suddenly, a voice rings out across the parking lot. Step away from her now. I turn to see a security guard running towards us, his hand on his radio. Ethan hesitates, his eyes darting between me and the guard. This isn't over, he hisses, before turning and stalking away. I collapse against my car, my body shaking with fear and adrenaline. The security guard helps me inside, calling the police and taking my statement. The next day, I file for a restraining order. The judge grants it without hesitation, ordering Ethan to stay away from me and Lily. But even with the restraining order in place, I can't shake the feeling of unease. I know that Ethan is still out there, still plotting his revenge. I throw myself into my work and my daughter, determined to create a better life for us both. Lily thrives in her new school, making friends and excelling in her studies. I watch with pride as she grows and changes, her confidence and resilience shining through. She is the light of my life, the reason I wake up every morning and face the world with a smile. But Ethan's life takes a different path. I hear rumors of his struggle to find employment, of his descent into alcohol and despair. Part of me feels a twinge of satisfaction, knowing that he is finally facing the consequences of his actions. But another part of me feels a sense of sadness, knowing that his downfall is a result of his own choices. One day, I receive a letter from Ethan. I open it with trembling hands, bracing myself for another threat or accusation. But instead, I find a simple message, scrawled in his familiar handwriting. "I'm sorry, Savannah, for everything. I know I can't take back what I've done, but I want you to know that I'm trying to be a better man. For Lily's sake, if not for my own." I stare at the words, feeling a mix of emotions washing over me. Part of me wants to tear the letter to shreds, to reject his apology and his attempt at redemption. But another part of me knows that forgiveness is a choice, a gift that I can give myself. I take a deep breath, folding the letter and tucking it away. I know that the road ahead won't be easy. I know that there will be challenges and obstacles, moments of doubt and fear. But I also know that I am stronger than I ever thought possible. I have the love and support of my daughter, my friends, and my family. And I know that, in the end, I will emerge from this journey a better, stronger version of myself. Ethan's betrayal may have shattered my world, but it also gave me the opportunity to rebuild, to create a life that is truly my own. This is just the beginning of my new chapter, and I am ready to embrace it with open arms. The future is bright, and I am excited to see where it will take us. The shrill ring of my phone pierced through the chaos of the wedding reception I was overseeing. I glanced at the caller ID and felt my stomach drop. Nathan. My husband's timing couldn't have been worse. Marissa, where the hell are you? Nathan's voice crackled through the speaker, dripping with venom. I stepped away from the bustling dance floor, my heels clicking against the polished marble. Nathan, I'm at work. You know I have the Peterson wedding tonight. Work? Always work with you, isn't it? He spat. Did you forget about Lily's rehearsal dinner? Your own sister-in-law? My heart sank. Lily's rehearsal dinner. How could I have forgotten? I glanced at my watch, realizing with horror that it had started over an hour ago. Nathan, I'm so sorry. I completely lost track of time. I'll be there as soon as I can. Don't bother, he cut me off. It's almost over. You've embarrassed me enough for one night. Please, let me explain to Lily. Oh, I'm sure she'll understand, Nathan's voice dripped with sarcasm. After all, it's only the most important day of her life. But hey, at least you didn't miss planning some stranger's wedding, right? I felt the sting of tears in my eyes. That's not fair, Nathan. This is my job. I can't just... Your job? He laughed bitterly. Your precious job is more important than family? Than me? Before I could respond, a commotion near the cake table caught my attention. The bride was gesturing wildly, her face flushed with anger. Nathan, I have to go. There's an emergency with the bride. We'll talk about this when I get home, okay? Don't bother coming home tonight, he snarled. I'm sure you can find a nice cozy office to sleep in. The line went dead. I stood there, phone in hand, feeling like I'd been punched in the gut. How had my life come to this? Marissa! Janice, my boss, called out. We need you over here, stat. I took a deep breath, plastered on my professional smile, and hurried over to defuse the situation with the bride. As I smoothed things over and got the reception back on track, Nathan's words echoed in my head. Hours later, as I locked up the venue, exhaustion settled into my bones. The thought of going home to face Nathan's wrath made my stomach churn. I pulled out my phone, hesitating before dialing Lily's number. Hello? Her voice was soft, tinged with disappointment. Lily, I'm so sorry about missing the rehearsal dinner, I began, my voice cracking. I got caught up at work and... It's okay, Marissa, she interrupted gently. I understand. Nathan told us you had an emergency with a client. I blinked, surprised. He did? Yeah. He seemed pretty upset, though. Is everything all right between you two? I swallowed hard. We're fine. Just a little stressed with work and the wedding planning. Well, don't work too hard, Lily said. We need our star wedding planner in top form for the big day. As I hung up, a mix of emotions swirled inside me. Relief that Lily wasn't angry, confusion over Nathan's unexpected cover story, and a gnawing dread about what awaited me at home. I climbed into my car, my hand hovering over the ignition. Go home and face Nathan's fury, or take him up on his suggestion to find somewhere else to sleep tonight? The choice I made in that moment would set in motion a chain of events that would change my life forever. Little did I know, the real storm was just beginning. I sat in my car, parked outside our house, my hands trembling on the steering wheel. The porch light was on, casting an eerie glow across the manicured lawn. Nathan was waiting for me. I closed my eyes, memories flooding back of how we got here. It all started in high school. Nathan was the charming quarterback, and I was the quiet girl with big dreams of planning lavish events. He swept me off my feet with grand gestures and promises of a perfect life together. You're going to be the best event planner in the state, he'd say, his arm draped around my shoulders, and I'll be right there, supporting you every step of the way. Those words echoed in my mind as I finally mustered the courage to enter our house. The moment I stepped inside, I knew something was wrong. The air was thick with tension, and Nathan's silence was deafening. Nathan, I called out, my voice barely above a whisper. He appeared from the shadows of our living room, his face a mask of controlled anger. Well, look who finally decided to grace us with her presence. I'm sorry about missing Lily's dinner. I lost track of time at work and... Work? He spat the word like a curse. Always work. Tell me, Marissa, when did your job become more important than your family? Than me? I flinched at his tone. That's not fair, Nathan. You know how hard I've worked to get where I am. This was my dream. Your dream? He laughed bitterly. And what about our dreams, the family we talked about, the life we planned together? Guilt washed over me. We had talked about starting a family, but I'd always found reasons to put it off. My career was just taking off, and I wasn't ready to give that up. I thought you supported my career, I said, my voice small. Nathan's eyes flashed dangerously. I supported you, Marissa. I've always supported you, but at what cost? You're never home. You missed Christmas with my family last year because of a client's New Year's Eve party. And now Lily's rehearsal dinner? I opened my mouth to defend myself, but he cut me off. Do you know how embarrassing it was to explain your absence? To watch my mother's disappointment? To see the pity in everyone's eyes? Tears stung my eyes. I'll make it up to Lily. I'll plan her the most beautiful wedding she could ever imagine. Nathan's laugh was cold and humorless. Of course you will, because that's what you do best, isn't it? Plan perfect days for strangers while neglecting your own family. His words cut deep, each one a dagger to my heart. I wanted to argue to defend myself, but a part of me wondered if he was right. Had I really lost sight of what was truly important? I'm sorry, I whispered, the fight draining out of me. Nathan's expression softened slightly, and for a moment I saw a glimpse of the boy I fell in love with all those years ago. He stepped closer, cupping my face in his hands. I love you, Marissa, he said softly. But something has to change. We can't go on like this. I nodded, relief washing over me. Maybe we could fix this. Maybe it wasn't too late. But then his grip on my face tightened, his fingers digging into my skin. From now on, you're going to start putting this family first. No more late nights at the office. No more missed dinners. And you're going to give Lily the wedding of her dreams, even if it kills you. Understood? I swallowed hard, a chill running down my spine. This wasn't the Nathan I knew. This wasn't the man I married. But as I looked into his eyes, I realized with a sinking heart that maybe it was. Maybe this was who he'd been all along, and I'd been too blind to see it. Understood, I whispered, sealing my fate with a single word. The alarm blared at 5 a.m., jolting me awake. I reached out to silence it, careful not to disturb Nathan. As I slipped out of bed, his words from last night echoed in my mind. No more late nights at the office. I tiptoed to the kitchen, my heart racing as I brewed coffee and scrolled through my overflowing inbox. 63 new emails. I'd have to tackle them before heading to the office. The sun was barely peeking over the horizon when Nathan stumbled into the kitchen. his eyes narrowing at the sight of me hunched over my laptop. "Working already?" he growled. I quickly closed the screen. "Just checking the weather." He grunted, unconvinced, and poured himself coffee. The silence between us was suffocating. "I was thinking," I ventured, "maybe we could have dinner with your mom and Lily tonight, to make up for missing the rehearsal dinner?" Nathan's face softened slightly. "That's actually a good idea. I'll call them." As he left the room, I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Small victories. At the office, Janice cornered me the moment I walked in. "Marissa, where are we with the Goldstein wedding? They've been calling non-stop." I felt a pang of guilt. The Goldstein wedding was next week, and I was nowhere near ready. "I'm on it, Janice. I'll have everything finalized by tomorrow." She raised an eyebrow. "Tomorrow? Cutting it a bit close, aren't we?" I nodded, ashamed. This wasn't like me. I was always ahead of schedule, always prepared. But lately, with Nathan's increasing demands and my attempts to balance work and family, I was dropping balls left and right. The day flew by in a blur of phone calls, vendor negotiations, and last-minute crisis management. Before I knew it, it was 6:30 p.m. Panic set in as I realized I was late for dinner with Nathan's family. I rushed into the restaurant at 7:15, out of breath and disheveled. Nathan's eyes flashed with anger as I approached the table. "I'm so sorry," I gasped. "There was an emergency with—" "Save it." Nathan cut me off, his voice low and dangerous. "We've heard it all before." Lily jumped up to hug me, her smile warm and genuine. "It's okay, Marissa. We're just glad you're here now." Grace, Nathan's mother, nodded in agreement, but I could see the disappointment in her eyes. It cut deeper than Nathan's anger. As we ate, I tried to steer the conversation towards Lily's wedding plans, hoping to smooth things over. "So, have you decided on a color scheme yet?" Lily's eyes lit up. "Actually, I was hoping to talk to you about that. I know you're busy, but I was wondering if maybe you could help plan the wedding. It would mean so much to me." I felt Nathan stiffen beside me. We locked eyes, and I saw the warning there. "Don't you dare say no." "Of course," I heard myself say. "I'd be honored." The rest of the dinner passed in a haze. As we said our goodbyes, Grace pulled me aside. "Marissa, dear, is everything all right? You seem stressed." For a moment I considered telling her everything, about Nathan's controlling behavior, about the impossible balancing act I was trying to maintain. But then I saw Nathan watching us, his jaw clenched, and the words died in my throat. "Everything's fine," I lied. "Just busy with work." The drive home was silent. As soon as we walked through the door, Nathan exploded. "What the hell was that?" he shouted. "You embarrass me in front of my family, and then you agree to plan Lily's wedding? Are you trying to make me look bad?" "Nathan, please," I pleaded. "I'm trying my best. I thought you'd be happy I agreed to help Lily." He grabbed my arm, his fingers digging in painfully. "Your best isn't good enough. You need to do better, for this family, for me." As I looked into his eyes, cold and unforgiving, I realized with startling clarity that I didn't recognize the man in front of me anymore. And worse, I didn't recognize myself. Something had to change. But as Nathan's grip tightened, I wondered if it was already too late. The morning after our disastrous family dinner, I woke to the insistent buzz of my phone. Lily's name flashed on the screen. I answered, my voice still thick with sleep. "Marissa, I hope I didn't wake you," Lily chirped, her excitement palpable even through the phone. "I just couldn't wait to start planning. Are you free for lunch today?" I glanced at the clock, 7:30 a.m. Nathan had already left for work, leaving behind a terse note reminding me to be home for dinner. "Sure, Lily. How about noon at Cafe Rosemary?" As I hung up, a mix of emotions swirled within me. Excitement at the prospect of planning Lily's wedding warred with anxiety over Nathan's potential reaction. But I pushed those thoughts aside. This was for Lily, and I was determined to make it perfect. At the cafe, Lily's enthusiasm was infectious. She pulled out a binder bursting with magazine clippings and Pinterest printouts. "I was thinking a spring garden theme," she gushed. "Lots of pastels, wildflowers, maybe even butterflies." I found myself caught up in her joy, my professional instincts kicking in. We spent hours poring over color swatches and venue options, the time flying by. It wasn't until my phone buzzed with a text from Nathan that reality came crashing back. "Where are you? Dinner's in an hour." I looked at my watch in horror. It was already 5 p.m. Lily, I'm so sorry, but I have to go. Nathan's expecting me home. Lily's face fell. Oh, of course. I didn't realize how late it was. We got so caught up. She hesitated, then added softly, Marissa, is everything okay with you and Nathan? You seem on edge lately. For a moment, I considered confiding in her, but the words stuck in my throat. How could I tarnish her image of her brother? Everything's fine, I lied. Just busy with work, you know. I rushed home, my mind racing. As I pulled into the driveway, I saw Nathan's car already there. My heart sank. The moment I stepped inside, Nathan was on me. Where the hell have you been? He demanded, his face twisted with anger. I was with Lily, I explained quickly. We were discussing wedding plans. I lost track of time. Lost track of time? He sneered. Seems to be a habit with you lately. What about your actual job? Or have you forgotten about that too? As if on cue, my phone rang. It was Janice. I answered, my voice shaking. Janice, Marissa, where are the finalized details for the Goldstein wedding? Janice's voice was sharp with frustration. The ceremony is in 3 days, and the client is threatening to pull out if we don't have everything sorted by tomorrow morning. I felt the blood drain from my face. In the whirlwind of Lily's planning, I'd completely forgotten about the Goldstein wedding. I'll have everything to you first thing tomorrow, I promise, I said, my mind already racing through what needed to be done. As I hung up, Nathan's cold laughter filled the room. Looks like someone's in trouble at work. Maybe if you focused more on your job instead of playing fairy godmother to my sister, you wouldn't be in this mess. His words stung, but a part of me knew he was right. I was dropping balls left and right, failing at work and at home. Something had to give. I'll fix this, I said, more to myself than to Nathan. I'll make it right. Nathan's eyes narrowed. You better, and while you're at it, you might want to think long and hard about your priorities, because from where I'm standing, you're failing at everything. As he stormed out of the room, I sank to the floor, overwhelmed. I had a crucial decision to make. My career, my marriage, my relationship with Lily. Everything was hanging by a thread, and I knew that whatever I chose, something would have to be sacrificed. With shaking hands, I reached for my laptop. I had a long night ahead of me, and the choices I made in the coming hours would shape the rest of my life. The question was, what was I willing to lose? The weeks following my late-night scramble to save the Goldstein wedding were a blur of endless to-do lists and sleepless nights. I was determined to prove to everyone, Nathan, Janice, and myself, that I could handle it all. Lily's wedding plans were coming together beautifully, and I felt a glimmer of hope that maybe, just maybe, I could make this work. That hope shattered on a rainy Tuesday afternoon. I was on my way to meet with Lily's florist when my phone rang. It was Grace, Nathan's mother. Marissa, dear, her voice trembled. There's been an accident. Nathan's in the hospital. The world tilted on its axis. What happened? Is he okay? Car accident. They say he'll be fine, but he's asking for you. I made a sharp U-turn, my heart pounding. As I sped towards the hospital, my phone buzzed incessantly. Lily, Janice, the florist. I ignored them all. At the hospital, I found Grace in the waiting room, her face pale with worry. He's in there. She pointed to a room down the hall. Go on, I'll wait here. I hesitated, then stepped into Nathan's room. He lay there, bruised and bandaged, looking more vulnerable than I'd ever seen him. For a moment, I saw the boy I fell in love with all those years ago. Marissa, he croaked, reaching for my hand. You came. Of course I came, I said, squeezing his hand. I was so worried. His grip tightened. I thought I might never see you again, and all I could think was how much I regretted our fight. Tears welled in my eyes. Nathan, no, let me finish, he interrupted. I've been horrible to you. I see that now. I want to change, to be better, for you, for us. I felt a weight lift from my chest. This was what I'd been waiting for, wasn't it? A chance to start over, to rebuild our marriage. But then my phone buzzed again. Lily's name flashed on the screen and reality came crashing back. I had responsibilities, commitments, people counting on me. I have to take this, I said, stepping out of the room. Marissa, where are you? Lily's voice was frantic. The florist is threatening to cancel if we don't finalize the order today. I glanced back at Nathan's room, torn. Lily, I'm so sorry. There's been an accident. Nathan's in the hospital. Oh my God, is he okay? Should I come? No, he's fine. Just some bruises. Look, can you handle the florist? I'll make it up to you, I promise. There was a pause. Of course, don't worry about it. Take care of Nathan. As I hung up, I saw Grace watching me, her expression unreadable. Everything okay? She asked. Yes, just work stuff, I mumbled. She nodded slowly. Marissa, I know it's not my place, but are you happy? Truly happy? The question caught me off guard. Was I happy? I thought of Nathan's promise to change, of Lily's excitement for her wedding, of the career I'd worked so hard to build. How could I possibly choose? Before I could answer, a commotion erupted down the hall. Nurses rushed past us towards Nathan's room. My blood ran cold. Code blue in room 305, someone shouted. I stood frozen as chaos unfolded around me. Grace's grip on my arm was painfully tight. In that moment, watching the medical team fight to save Nathan's life, I realized the true weight of my choices. If Nathan survived, could I really trust his promise to change? If I stayed, what would I be sacrificing? My career? My self-respect? But if I left, could I live with the guilt? As the alarms blared and doctors shouted orders, I knew I was standing at a crossroads. Whatever decision I made in the next few moments would irrevocably change the course of my life. The question was I brave enough to make it? The steady beep of the heart monitor was the only sound in Nathan's hospital room. He'd survived the code blue, but barely. The doctors called it a miracle. I called it a complication. You have to be at Lily's wedding, Nathan rasped, his eyes boring into mine. She needs you there? I shook my head, gesturing to his frail form. Nathan, you just had a near-death experience. Lily will understand if I... No. He cut me off, his voice surprisingly strong. You made a commitment, Todd. You're going. A chill ran down my spine. Even from a hospital bed, Nathan was trying to control me. I opened my mouth to argue, but Grace appeared in the doorway. Marissa, dear, she said softly, can I speak with you outside? In the hallway, Grace's facade crumbled. Lily just called. She's frantic. With Nathan in the hospital and you here, she's worried the wedding will fall apart. My heart sank. I can't leave Nathan, Grace. He nearly died. Grace's eyes hardened. Nathan will be fine. He has the best doctors. But Lily, this is her big day. You promised her. The weight of expectation pressed down on me. I felt like I was suffocating. I'll go, I heard myself say. Just let me say goodbye to Nathan. Back in the room, Nathan's lips curled into a triumphant smile. I knew you'd make the right choice, he said. Don't let me down. The drive to the wedding venue was a blur. My ribs ached from the accident, a constant reminder of the chaos my life had become. As I pulled up to the picturesque garden, I saw Lily pacing anxiously. Marissa, she cried, rushing towards me. Thank God you're here. Everything's falling apart. The caterer's late, the flowers are wrong, and... She stopped short, taking in my appearance. Are you okay? You look awful. I forced a smile. I'm fine, just a little banged up from the accident. Don't worry, I'll fix everything. The next few hours were a whirlwind of crisis management. I juggled vendors, rearranged seating charts, and soothed Lily's frayed nerves, all while ignoring the stabbing pain in my side and the constant buzz of my phone with updates from the hospital. As guests began to arrive, I ducked into a bathroom to catch my breath. The woman in the mirror was a stranger, pale, with dark circles under her eyes and a hospital gown peeking out from under her hastily thrown-on blazer. My phone buzzed again. Nathan. Where are you? His text read. The doctor wants to discuss my treatment plan. I closed my eyes, fighting back tears. How had I let things get this far? A knock at the door startled me. Marissa? It was Janice. Are you in there? We have a situation. I took a deep breath and opened the door. Janice's eyes widened at my appearance, but she pressed on. The groom's family is threatening to leave. Something about the seating arrangement? I'll handle it, I said automatically, my body moving on autopilot. As I navigated the brewing family drama, my vision began to blur. The pain in my side intensified, and I stumbled, catching myself on a nearby chair. Marissa? Lily's voice sounded far away. Are you okay? I tried to respond, but the words wouldn't come. The room spun, faces blurring together. I felt myself falling, powerless to stop it. As darkness closed in, I had a moment of startling clarity. I couldn't keep living like this, torn between everyone's expectations. Something had to give. The last thing I heard before losing consciousness was Lily's panicked voice calling my name. As I slipped into the void, I realized that this moment, this very public, very messy breakdown, might be the thing that finally set me free. But at what cost? I awoke to the harsh glare of fluorescent lights and the steady beep of a heart monitor. For a moment, I thought I was back in Nathan's hospital room. But as my vision cleared, I realized I was the patient this time. Lily's tear-stained face came into focus. "Marissa, thank God you're awake. We were so worried." "The wedding," I croaked, trying to sit up. "What happened?" Lily gently pushed me back down. "Don't worry about that now. The doctor said you collapsed from exhaustion and stress. Your ribs were also more damaged than you let on." Shame washed over me. I'd ruined Lily's big day. "I'm so sorry, Lily. I never meant to." "Stop," she interrupted, her voice firm. "This isn't your fault. It's Nathan's." I blinked, surprised by the venom in her tone. "What do you mean?" Lily's eyes flashed with anger. "We know everything, Marissa, about how he's been treating you, the emotional abuse, the control. When you collapsed, your phone kept ringing. I answered it, and, well, let's just say Nathan showed his true colors." My heart raced. "Lily, The door burst open, and Nathan stormed in, followed closely by Grace. "There you are," he snarled. "Do you have any idea what you've done? You've embarrassed this entire family." "Nathan," Grace gasped. "That's enough." But Nathan was beyond reason. He loomed over my bed, his face contorted with rage. "I knew you couldn't handle it. You're weak, pathetic. I should have never married you." Something inside me snapped. Years of pent-up frustration and fear bubbled to the surface. "You're right, Nathan," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "You shouldn't have married me, because I deserve better than you." The room fell silent. Nathan's face paled, then flushed with anger. "What did you say to me?" I sat up straighter, ignoring the pain in my side. "I said I deserve better. I'm done, Nathan. I want a divorce." "You ungrateful bitch," he hissed, reaching for me. But before he could touch me, Lily stepped between us. "Don't you dare," she warned. "Touch her, and I'll make sure you regret it for the rest of your life." Nathan stumbled back, shock written across his face. "Lily, you're taking her side?" "There are no sides, Nathan," Grace said, her voice heavy with disappointment. "Only right and wrong, and what you've done to Marissa is wrong." I watched in amazement as my in-laws, the family I'd tried so hard to please, rallied around me. Tears streamed down my face, but for the first time in years, they were tears of relief. Nathan's gaze darted between us, realization dawning that he'd lost control. With a final venomous glare at me, he stormed out of the room. In the silence that followed, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. But as the adrenaline faded, fear crept in. What had I done? Where would I go? How would I start over? As if reading my mind, Janice appeared in the doorway. "I heard what happened," she said softly. "Marissa, I owe you an apology. I should have seen what was happening, but I want you to know your job is safe. In fact, I think it's time we discussed making you a partner in the business." I stared at her, overwhelmed. In the span of a few hours, my entire world had turned upside down. The future stretched before me, uncertain but full of possibility. "What do I do now?" I whispered, more to myself than anyone else. Lily squeezed my hand. "You heal, you rebuild, and we'll be here every step of the way." As I looked around at the faces of those who truly cared for me, I realized that this wasn't just the end of my marriage. It was the beginning of my freedom. The road ahead would be challenging, but for the first time in years, I felt ready to face it. Because finally, gloriously, I was free. 6 months after that fateful day in the hospital, I stood outside the courthouse, my hands trembling as I clutched a thick manila envelope. Inside were the final divorce papers, along with copies of the journal entries that had become my salvation. "Are you ready?" Lily asked, squeezing my arm gently. I took a deep breath and nodded. "As I'll ever be." We walked into the courtroom, my heart pounding. Nathan was already there, his face a mask of cold indifference. But I saw the flicker of surprise in his eyes when he noticed Lily by my side. As the proceedings began, I felt a strange calm wash over me. This was it. The end of one chapter, the beginning of another. "Your Honor," my lawyer began, "I'd like to submit these journal entries as evidence of the emotional abuse my client endured throughout her marriage." Nathan's lawyer objected, but the judge overruled him. As excerpts from my journal were read aloud, I watched Nathan's facade crumble. The charming mask he wore for the world slipped away, revealing the monster beneath. Grace, sitting in the back of the courtroom, let out a choked sob. I caught her eye, seeing the pain and regret there. She mouthed a silent "I'm sorry," and I nodded. feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. When it was my turn to speak, I stood tall, my voice steady. Your Honor, for years I lived in fear. I sacrificed my dreams, my self-worth, everything that made me who I am, to please a man who was never satisfied. Today I'm reclaiming my life. I turned to Nathan, meeting his gaze head-on. I forgive you, Nathan. Not for your sake, but for mine. I'm letting go of the pain, the anger, the shame. From this day forward, I choose me. The judge's gavel came down, granting the divorce and a restraining order against Nathan. It was over. Outside the courthouse, Janice was waiting with a bouquet of flowers. Congratulations, partner, she said, pulling me into a hug. Ready to plan your freedom party? I laughed, feeling lighter than I had in years. You bet, but first, I have one last thing to do. I walked over to Grace, who stood alone, looking lost. Grace, I said softly. She turned, tears in her eyes. Marissa, I'm so sorry. I should have seen what was happening. I should have protected you. I took her hands in mine. You're here now. That's what matters. But I've lost everything, she whispered. My son, my family. I shook my head. No, you haven't. Lily and I, we're still your family, if you want us to be. Grace broke down, pulling me into a fierce hug. Over her shoulder, I saw Nathan watching us, his face twisted with anger and defeat. For a moment, our eyes met, and I felt a final surge of pity for the man I once loved. Then I turned away, leaving him and the past behind. That evening, surrounded by friends and family, my chosen family, I raised a glass. To new beginnings, I toasted. As laughter and love filled the room, I caught my reflection in a mirror. The woman staring back at me was stronger, wiser, and finally, truly free. I smiled, realizing that the greatest revenge wasn't in destroying Nathan, but in rebuilding myself. My phone buzzed with a text from a new client, eager to plan her vow renewal. I grinned, excited for the future and all its possibilities. Because now, at last, I was writing my own happily ever after. The letter trembled in my hands, its crisp edges cutting into my fingers like the words sliced through my heart. I couldn't believe what I was reading. My husband, Seth, the man I'd built a life with for the past decade, was secretly planning to sell our home, our sanctuary. Mommy, can we have ice cream? Emily's sweet voice broke through my shock. I quickly folded the letter and shoved it into my pocket. Of course, sweetie. Let's go to the kitchen. I forced a smile, determined not to let my 5-year-old see the turmoil brewing inside me. As I scooped strawberry ice cream into a bowl for Emily, my mind raced. How long had Seth been planning this? Why hadn't he talked to me about it? The weight of betrayal settled on my shoulders like a heavy cloak. The front door opened and Seth's voice called out, "I'm home." Emily squealed with delight and ran to greet her father. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the confrontation ahead. Hey, hon, Seth said, walking into the kitchen. He kissed my cheek, but I turned away, unable to reciprocate. Everything okay? I met his gaze, searching for any sign of guilt or remorse. We need to talk, Seth. Emily, sweetie, why don't you go watch some cartoons? Once our daughter was out of earshot, I pulled the letter from my pocket. Care to explain this? Seth's face paled as he recognized the real estate agent's letterhead. Where did you get that? It doesn't matter. What matters is you've been making plans behind my back to sell our home. Our home, Seth. He ran a hand through his hair, sighing heavily. Carolyn, it's not what you think. I was just exploring our options. Options? I spat the word out. Since when is selling the house we've built our life in an option? And why wouldn't you discuss this with me first? Seth's expression hardened. Look, we're struggling financially. You know that. I'm just trying to find a solution. By going behind my back, by making decisions that affect our entire family without even consulting me? My voice rose, and I struggled to keep it down for Emily's sake. You're overreacting, Seth said dismissively. It was just a preliminary inquiry, nothing set in stone. His cavalier attitude only fueled my anger. That's not the point, Seth. We're supposed to be partners. We're supposed to make these decisions together. Before Seth could respond, the doorbell rang. He looked relieved at the interruption. That'll be Mom and Dad. They're stopping by for dinner, remember? My heart sank. Of course, his parents would choose today of all days to visit. Perfect timing, I muttered. As Seth went to answer the door, I tried to compose myself. Walter and Dolores swept into the house, their presence immediately filling every corner. Carolyn, dear, Dolores said, air kissing my cheeks. I hope you've prepared something nice for dinner. You know how Walter loves his pot roast. I bit back a retort. Actually, I was thinking of ordering in tonight. It's been a long day. Dolores clicked her tongue disapprovingly. Oh, nonsense. A good wife always has a home-cooked meal ready for her family. I caught Seth's eye, silently pleading for support, but he just shrugged and mouthed, It's fine. As I reluctantly headed to the kitchen to throw together a last-minute meal, I overheard Walter's booming voice. So, son, have you given any more thought to that business proposition I mentioned? It could really turn things around you financially. My hands froze on the refrigerator door. Another secret Seth had been keeping from me? I leaned closer, straining to hear Seth's response. Dad, I told you I'm handling things my way, Seth said, his voice low but firm. Your way? Walter scoffed. Your way has you living paycheck to paycheck. It's time to make some real changes, son. I'd heard enough. Slamming the refrigerator shut, I marched back into the living room. You know what? I'm not feeling well. I think we'll have to reschedule dinner. 4 pairs of eyes turned to me in surprise. Seth looked confused, Dolores offended, and Walter annoyed, but it was Emily's worried gaze that nearly broke my resolve. Mommy, are you okay? She asked, her little brow furrowed with concern. I knelt down and hugged her tight. I'm fine, sweetie. Just a little headache. Why don't you go play in your room for a bit? As Emily scampered off, I faced the others. I'm sorry, but I really need to lie down. Seth, could you see your parents out? Without waiting for a response, I turned and headed for our bedroom, my mind whirling with newfound determination. It was clear now, something had to change, and if Seth wouldn't do it, then I would have to take matters into my own hands. The doorbell's chime sent a wave of dread through me. I glanced at the clock, 2 p.m. on a Tuesday, right on schedule. I've got it, Seth called from the living room. I braced myself as Walter and Dolores breezed in, their presence filling our home like an invasive fog. It had been 3 days since I discovered Seth's secret plans to sell our house, and the tension between us was palpable. Carolyn, dear, Dolores cooed, her eyes scanning our living room critically. I see you haven't dusted the mantel this week. I bit back a retort. I've been busy with Emily's school projects. Walter harumphed. A woman's first duty is to her home, isn't that right, Seth? I watched my husband, silently pleading for him to defend me. Instead, he shrugged. Mom and Dad are just trying to help, Carolyn. The betrayal stung. I turned away, busying myself in the kitchen to hide my hurt. As I prepared coffee, I overheard their conversation. Son, have you given any more thought to that business opportunity I mentioned? Walter's voice carried a note of impatience. Dad, I told you. Now, Seth, Dolores interrupted. Your father knows best. You should listen to him. I nearly dropped the coffee pot. Another secret? How many more were there? Composing myself, I carried the tray into the living room. Here's the coffee. Emily will be home from school soon, so we can't visit long. Dolores waved her hand dismissively. Nonsense. We'll stay for dinner. I'm sure you have something prepared. My jaw clenched. Actually, Great, Walter boomed. I'm in the mood for your pot roast, Carolyn. I looked to Seth, hoping he'd intervene, but he was absorbed in his phone. Anger bubbled up inside me. I'm sorry, but I don't have anything prepared. We weren't expecting company. The room fell silent. Dolores's eyes narrowed. Well, I never. Seth, are you going to let your wife speak to us like that? Seth finally looked up, his expression a mix of confusion and annoyance. Carolyn, what's the problem? Can't you just whip something up? That was the last straw. No, Seth, I can't just whip something up. I have a life beyond catering to your parents' every whim. Walter stood up, his face reddening. Now see here, young lady. No, you see here, I snapped. This is my home, and I won't be bullied in it. Not by you, not by Dolores, and certainly not by my own husband. The room erupted into chaos. Dolores gasped dramatically, Walter bellowed about respect, and Seth just sat there looking bewildered. Suddenly, a small voice cut through the noise. Mommy? Daddy? Why is everyone yelling? We all turned to see Emily standing in the doorway, her backpack clutched tightly to her chest. The sight of her frightened face doused my anger instantly. It's okay, sweetie, I said, moving to embrace her. Grandma and Grandpa were just leaving. Seth finally found his voice. Mom, Dad, I think it's best if you go. We'll talk later. As Walter and Dolores huffed their way out the door, I held Emily close, stroking her hair. Seth approached us cautiously. "Carolyn, what's gotten into you?" he asked, his voice low. I met his gaze, my resolve strengthening. "We need to talk, Seth, but not now, not in front of Emily." He nodded, a flicker of worry crossing his face. Good, I thought. He should be worried. Later that night, after tucking Emily into bed, I found Seth in his study. The letter from the real estate agent lay on his desk. "Were you ever going to tell me?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Seth sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I was waiting for the right time. We're struggling, Carolyn. The house is too expensive. I thought—" "You thought wrong," I interrupted. "This isn't just your decision to make. And what about this business opportunity your father mentioned? Another secret?" His silence was all the answer I needed. I felt something inside me break. "I can't do this anymore, Seth. The secrets, the disrespect, your parents' constant interference. Something has to change." Seth stood up, reaching for me. "Carolyn, please, we can work this out." I stepped back, shaking my head. "Can we? Because right now I'm not so sure." As I turned to leave the room, Seth called out, "What are you saying?" I paused at the doorway, my hand on the knob. "I'm saying that if things don't change, and fast, you might just get your wish to sell this house. But I won't be here when you do." With that, I walked out, alone with the weight of his secrets and the consequences of his actions. As I climbed into our cold, empty bed, I realized that for the first time in years, I felt something other than resignation. I felt hope. The morning light filtered through the curtains, illuminating the empty space beside me. Seth had taken to sleeping in the guest room, a silent acknowledgement of the growing chasm between us. I sighed, steeling myself for another day of tension and unspoken words. As I made my way downstairs, I heard Emily's laughter mingling with Seth's voice. For a moment, I allowed myself to hope that perhaps things were improving. But as I rounded the corner into the kitchen, reality came crashing back. "Mommy," Emily exclaimed, her face lighting up. "Daddy says we're going to move to a bigger house with a pool." I froze, my eyes locking with Seth's. His expression was a mix of guilt and defiance. "I thought we agreed to wait," I said, my voice low and controlled. Seth shrugged, avoiding my gaze. "She overheard me on the phone. I had to explain." "On the phone?" I repeated, my anger rising. "So you're still pursuing this without talking to me?" "Carolyn, please," Seth said, gesturing towards Emily. "Not now." I bit my tongue, forcing a smile for our daughter's sake. "Emily, sweetie, why don't you go get dressed for school? I need to talk to Daddy." Once Emily was out of earshot, I turned on Seth. "How dare you? We're supposed to be a team, Seth. You can't just make unilateral decisions about our family's future." "What team?" Seth snapped back. "You've been cold and distant for weeks. Someone has to make decisions around here." Cold and distant? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I've been trying to process the fact that my husband has been lying to me and planning major life changes behind my back. Seth's face hardened. "I'm doing what's best for this family. If you can't see that, maybe you're not as committed to us as you claim to be." His words hit me like a physical blow. "Not committed? I've given everything to this family, Seth. Everything. And you have the audacity to question my commitment?" Our argument was interrupted by a small sob. We turned to see Emily standing in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. "Please stop fighting," she whimpered. Guilt washed over me as I moved to comfort her. "Oh, sweetie, I'm so sorry. Mommy and Daddy just had a disagreement. Everything's okay." But as I held my crying daughter, I knew everything was far from okay. The look Seth gave me as he left for work was cold and distant, a far cry from the loving husband I once knew. Throughout the day, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. Emily was quieter than usual, her usual exuberance dimmed by the morning's events. As I tucked her into bed that night, she looked up at me with worried eyes. "Mommy, are you and Daddy going to get a divorce like Jenny's parents?" My heart shattered. "Oh, honey," I said, struggling to find the right words. "Mommy and Daddy are just going through a rough patch. We both love you very much, and that will never change." But as I closed Emily's door, I couldn't help but wonder if I was lying to her. The thought of divorce had been creeping into my mind more and more lately, but hearing it from my daughter's lips made it feel terrifyingly real. I made my way to Seth's study, determined to have a real conversation, but as I approached, I heard his hushed voice through the door. "I know, Dad. I'm working on it. Carolyn's being difficult, but I'll convince her. The house will be on the market by the end of the month, I promise. My world tilted on its axis. All this time, I'd hoped that Seth would come around, that we could work things out. But now I realized the truth. He had no intention of considering my feelings or opinions. He was going to sell our home, with or without my consent. In that moment, something inside me hardened. I'd spent years compromising, years putting everyone else's needs before my own. But no more. If Seth wanted a fight, he was going to get one. As I turned away from the study door, my mind was already racing with plans. It was time to take control of my own destiny, for my sake and for Emily's. The road ahead would be difficult, but for the first time in a long time, I felt a spark of determination ignite within me. Let Seth make his plans. I would make mine. And when the dust settled, he'd realize just how badly he'd underestimated me. The phone rang. Its cheerful tone, a stark contrast to the tension that had settled over our home. I answered, grateful for the distraction. "Carolyn, sweetheart?" My mother's voice filled me with warmth. "Your father and I have been thinking. We'd love to come visit next week. It's been too long since we've seen our granddaughter." For the first time in weeks, a genuine smile spread across my face. "Oh, Mom, that would be wonderful. Emily would love to see you both." As I hung up, I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe my parents' visit would bring some much-needed light into our increasingly gloomy household. But my optimism was short-lived. "Who was that?" Seth's voice, cold and suspicious, came from behind me. I turned to face him. "It was my mom. They want to visit next week." Seth's expression darkened. "Absolutely not. We can't have visitors right now. I told you we need to get the house ready for sale." The spark of hope inside me flared into anger. "You mean the sale you're planning behind my back? The one I explicitly told you I don't want?" "Carolyn, be reasonable," Seth said, his tone patronizing. "We've been over this. It's the best decision for our family." "No," I shot back. "It's the best decision for you. And as for my parents visiting, they're coming. End of discussion." Seth's face flushed with anger. "I said no, Carolyn. This is my house too, and I have a say in who comes here." "Your house?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "What happened to our house, Seth? And why is it okay for your parents to barge in whenever they want, but mine can't visit?" "That's different," Seth sputtered. "My parents are trying to help us," I laughed bitterly. "Help us? By criticizing everything I do? By undermining me at every turn? Some help, that is." Seth's voice rose. "At least they care about our financial future. Your parents have never lifted a finger to help us. Because we've never asked them to," I shouted back. "They respect our independence, unlike your parents, who treat us like children." Our argument was interrupted by Emily's small voice. "Daddy, why are you yelling at Mommy?" We both turned to see our daughter standing in the doorway, her eyes wide with fear. Seth's expression softened immediately. "It's nothing, sweetheart," he said, reaching for her. "Mommy and Daddy are just having a grown-up discussion." But Emily backed away from him, running to me instead. As I held her close, I saw something flicker in Seth's eyes. Hurt? Jealousy? Whatever it was quickly replaced by cold anger. "Fine," he spat. "Have your parents visit, but don't expect me to be here. I'll stay at my parents' place until they're gone." As he stormed out of the room, I felt a strange mix of relief and despair wash over me. How had we come to this? The man I married, the one who had promised to stand by me through thick and thin, was now treating me like an enemy. That night, as I lay in bed, my mind raced. I thought about Seth's ultimatum, about the house, about Emily's frightened face. Something had to give. I couldn't keep living like this, walking on eggshells in my own home, watching my daughter grow more anxious by the day. I reached for my phone, hesitating for just a moment before dialing. "Mom?" I said when she answered, my voice shaky. "About your visit next week, I was wondering, would it be okay if Emily and I came to stay with you instead?" There was a pause, and I could almost hear the concern in my mother's silence. "Of course, sweetheart," she finally said. "Is everything all right?" I took a deep breath, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. "No, Mom, it's not, but I think it's time I did something about it." As I hung up, I felt a strange mix of fear and determination. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew one thing for certain. Things were about to change. And this time, I would be the one calling the shots. The morning sun filtered through the curtains as I sat at the kitchen table, my hands wrapped around a steaming mug of coffee. The house was quiet, Seth having left early for work without a word. Emily was still asleep upstairs, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in our once happy home. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I knew I had to do. It was time to confront Seth, to lay all our cards on the table. No more secrets, no more silent treatments. We needed to talk about the house, about our future, about everything. As if on cue, I heard the front door open. Seth walked in, his suit wrinkled and his eyes tired. He froze when he saw me sitting there. "Seth," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "We need to talk." He sighed, loosening his tie. "Carolyn, I'm exhausted. Can this wait?" "No," I replied firmly. "It can't. Sit down, please." Reluctantly, he took a seat across from me. I pushed a folder towards him, watching as confusion flickered across his face. "What's this?" he asked. "Open it," I said. As he flipped through the pages, his expression changed from confusion to shock, then to anger. Inside were printouts of all his secret correspondence with the real estate agent, bank statements showing large withdrawals I knew nothing about, and a draft contract for selling our house. "Where did you get these?" Seth demanded, his voice low and dangerous. "That doesn't matter," I replied. "What matters is that you've been lying to me, Seth, making huge decisions about our life without even consulting me." "Why?" Seth's face hardened. "You wouldn't understand. I'm trying to secure our future, Carolyn. This house is dragging us down financially." "And you didn't think I deserved to be part of that decision?" I shot back. "This is my home too, Seth. Our daughter's home. You can't just decide to sell it on a whim." "It's not a whim," Seth shouted, slamming his hand on the table. "We're drowning in debt, Carolyn. The business isn't doing well, and I've been trying to keep us afloat, but you're too busy playing house to see the reality of our situation." His words hit me like a slap. "Playing house? Is that what you think I do all day? Take care of our daughter, manage our home, support you in every way I can." Seth's expression softened slightly. "That's not what I meant. I didn't want to worry you with all this." "So instead you lied to me?" I asked, my voice breaking. "Made me feel like I was going crazy for suspecting something was wrong?" "I was protecting you," Seth insisted. "No," I said, shaking my head. "You were protecting yourself. From having to face the truth with me, from having to admit that things aren't perfect." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of unspoken words hanging between us. Finally, I spoke again. "I've decided to go stay with my parents for a while," I said quietly. "I'm taking Emily with me." Seth's head snapped up. "What? You can't do that." "I can, and I will," I replied, my resolve strengthening. "We need some time apart, Seth, to figure out what we really want, and if this marriage is still what's best for both of us." "Carolyn, please," Seth pleaded, reaching for my hand. "We can work this out. I'll cancel the sale. We'll figure something else out." I pulled my hand away. "It's too late for that, Seth. The trust is gone. I need time to think, to breathe." As if on cue, we heard Emily's footsteps on the stairs. Seth's eyes met mine, panic clear in his gaze. "Don't tell her," he whispered urgently. "Not yet." I nodded, forcing a smile as our daughter entered the kitchen. But as I watched Seth interact with Emily, pretending everything was fine, I felt something inside me harden. This wasn't just about the house anymore. It was about respect, trust, and the kind of life I wanted for myself and my daughter. Later that night, as I packed our bags in secret, I made a decision. This break with my parents wouldn't just be about thinking things over. It would be about planning my next move, about taking control of my life in a way I hadn't done in years. Seth had made his choices. Now it was time for me to make mine. The suitcases sat by the door, a silent testament to my resolve. Emily bounced excitedly nearby, chattering about seeing her grandparents. I forced a smile, my stomach churning with a mix of anticipation and dread. "Are you sure about this, Carolyn?" Seth's voice, tinged with desperation, came from behind me. I turned to face him, steeling myself against the pain in his eyes. "We need this, Seth. I need this." He reached for me, but I stepped back. "It's just for 3 days," I said, more to convince myself than him. "We'll talk when I get back." As we drove away, Emily waving goodbye from the back seat, I caught a glimpse of Seth in the rearview mirror. He stood on the porch, looking lost and alone. For a moment, my resolve wavered. Then I remembered the lies, the secrets, the dismissals of my feelings. I pressed the gas pedal harder. The drive to my parents' lakeside cabin was quiet, Emily having dozed off shortly after we left. My mind raced with thoughts of the past few months, of the life I thought I had versus the reality I was facing. We arrived just as the sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the tranquil lake. My parents greeted us warmly, enveloping Emily in hugs and showering her with attention. As I watched them, a lump formed in my throat. This was what family should feel like: warm, supportive, loving. That night, after Emily was tucked in, I sat on the porch with my parents. The weight of everything came crashing down, and I found myself pouring out the whole story. Seth's secrets, the house, the constant belittling from his parents. "Oh, sweetheart," my mother said, pulling me into a hug. "Why didn't you tell us sooner?" "I was ashamed," I admitted, tears streaming down my face. "I thought I could fix it." My father's voice was gruff with emotion. "You have nothing to be ashamed of, Carolyn. That man has a lot to answer for." As we talked late into the night, a plan began to form in my mind. It was terrifying, but also exhilarating. For the first time in years, I felt like I was taking control of my life. The next 2 days were a whirlwind of activity. While Emily enjoyed the lake with her grandparents, I made phone calls to lawyers, to financial advisors, to old friends who might have job leads. With each call, my resolve strengthened. On the last night of our stay, as Emily slept peacefully, I sat by the lake, my phone clutched in my hand. I had drafted and redrafted the message a dozen times. Finally, with a deep breath, I hit send. "Seth, we need to talk when I get back. Things can't go on like this. I've made some decisions about our future." The response was almost immediate. "What do you mean? Carolyn, what's going on?" I didn't reply. Instead, I turned off my phone and looked out over the calm water. The peace I felt in that moment was in stark contrast to the storm I knew was coming. As dawn broke on our last day, I began packing our bags. Emily was still asleep, blissfully unaware of the turmoil in her parents' lives. I envied her innocence. Just as I zipped up the last suitcase, my phone buzzed. It was Seth. "I'm coming to get you and Emily. We need to sort this out now." Panic rose in my throat. This wasn't part of the plan. I wasn't ready to face him yet. Not here. Not now. "Carolyn?" My mother's voice called from downstairs. "There's someone here to see you." My heart pounding, I made my way down the stairs, and there, standing in the living room, looking disheveled and desperate, was Seth. Our eyes met, and in that moment, I knew. There was no going back. The life I had known, the marriage I had clung to, was over. The only question now was, what would rise from its ashes? As Seth opened his mouth to speak, I raised my hand to stop him. "No, Seth," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. "This time, you're going to listen to me." The tension in the room was palpable as Seth and I faced each other. My parents stood nearby, their protective presence giving me strength. "Carolyn, what's going on?" Seth demanded, his voice a mix of anger and desperation. "You can't just take our daughter and disappear like this." I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "I didn't disappear, Seth. I told you I needed time to think, and I have." "Think about what?" he asked, his eyes darting between me and my parents. "About us. About our future, about what's best for Emily." I paused, gathering my courage. "I want a separation, Seth." The words hung in the air, heavy and final. Seth's face paled, then flushed with anger. "A separation? Are you out of your mind? We have a life together, a family." "Do we?" I countered, my voice stronger than I felt. "Because lately, it feels like we're just two strangers living in the same house, keeping secrets and making unilateral decisions." Seth's eyes narrowed. "This is about the house, isn't it? I told you I was trying to protect you." "No, Seth, this is about trust, about respect, about partnership." I pulled out a folder from my bag, the same one I had shown him days ago. "I've been doing some digging of my own. The business isn't just struggling, is it?" "You're on the verge of bankruptcy." Seth's face crumpled. "How did you—" "It doesn't matter." I cut him off. "What matters is that you lied to me. Again and again. You made huge decisions that affect our entire family without even consulting me." "I was trying to fix things," Seth shouted, his composure cracking. "I didn't want you to worry." "That wasn't your choice to make," I shouted back, years of pent-up frustration pouring out. "We're supposed to be partners, Seth, equals, but you've been treating me like a child, like I can't handle the truth." Seth's anger deflated, replaced by a look of defeat. "What do you want from me, Carolyn?" "I want honesty. I want respect. I want to be treated like an equal partner in this marriage." I took a deep breath. "But right now I don't think you're capable of giving me that." Just then, a small voice interrupted us. "Mommy? Daddy?" Emily stood at the foot of the stairs, her eyes wide with fear. Seth and I exchanged a look of guilt. We had been so caught up in our argument, we'd forgotten about our daughter. I knelt down, opening my arms to Emily. "It's okay, sweetie. Mommy and Daddy were just talking." As I held our daughter, I looked up at Seth. His face was a mask of pain and regret. For a moment I felt a flicker of doubt. Could we fix this? Should we try for Emily's sake? But then I remembered the lies, the secrets, the constant dismissal of my feelings. I thought about the future I wanted for Emily, one where she saw her mother as strong, respected, valued. "Seth," I said softly, "I think you should go. We'll talk more when we get back home." He opened his mouth to argue, then closed it, nodding slowly. As he turned to leave, he paused at the door. "I'm sorry, Carolyn, for everything. I hope it's not too late." As the door closed behind him, I felt a strange mix of sadness and relief wash over me. My mother placed a comforting hand on my shoulder. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" she asked. I looked down at Emily, still nestled in my arms, then back at my parents. In that moment, I realized that this wasn't just about ending something. It was about beginning something new. Something better. "No," I replied honestly, "but I will be." As I stood there, surrounded by the love and support of my family, I felt a newfound strength coursing through me. The road ahead would be difficult, but for the first time in years, I felt ready to face it. Not as Seth's wife, not as Emily's mother, but as Carolyn. Strong, independent, and finally, truly free. The familiar streets of our neighborhood felt foreign as we drove past, Emily chattering excitedly in the back seat about seeing her toys again. My parents followed in their car, a convoy of support I never knew I needed until now. As we pulled into the driveway, my heart raced. Seth wasn't there. Good. This would be easier without him present. "Mommy, why aren't we going inside?" Emily asked as I unbuckled her. I knelt down, meeting her curious gaze. "Sweetie, we're going to stay with Grandma and Grandpa for a while. It's going to be an adventure, okay?" Her little brow furrowed. "But what about Daddy?" The question I'd been dreading. I swallowed hard. Daddy needs some time alone right now, but he loves you very much, and you'll see him soon." As my parents helped gather our essentials, I slipped inside the house one last time. The silence was deafening. I moved through the rooms, memories flooding back, both good and bad. In our bedroom, I placed the letter I'd written on Seth's pillow. My hand lingered on the paper, a finality to the action that made my chest tighten. Back outside, I locked the door, feeling the weight of the key in my palm. This house, once my dream, now felt like a prison I was finally escaping. At my parents' house, as Emily explored her new temporary room, my mother pulled me aside. "Carolyn, are you sure about this?" I nodded, surprising myself with my certainty. "I am, Mom. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm doing the right thing." The next few days were a whirlwind. I filed for separation, met with lawyers, and started job hunting. Seth called and texted incessantly, alternating between anger, pleading, and promises to change. I held firm, only communicating about Emily's needs. A week after our return, as I was putting Emily to bed, my phone buzzed with a text from Seth. "I'm outside your parents' house. We need to talk." My heart raced, but I steeled myself. This confrontation was inevitable. Seth looked haggard as I met him on the porch. "Carolyn, please," he began. "I know I messed up, but we can fix this. Come home." I shook my head. "Seth, this isn't just about the house or the lies. It's about years of feeling undervalued, dismissed, and disrespected. I can't go back to that." "I'll change," he promised desperately. "I'll do whatever it takes." "That's just it, Seth," I said softly. "You shouldn't have to change who you are, and I shouldn't have to change who I've become. We've grown apart, and it's time we accept that. Tears filled his eyes. "What about Emily?" "We'll co-parent. She needs both of us, Seth, but she needs us happy and whole, not miserable and resentful." As Seth's shoulders slumped in defeat, I felt a wave of compassion. Despite everything, I did still care for him. "Seth," I said gently, "I hope you find happiness. I really do, but I need to find mine too." After he left, I sat on the porch swing, gazing at the stars. For the first time in years, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The road ahead would be challenging, but I was ready to face it. The next morning, as Emily and I ate breakfast, my phone pinged with a job offer. A position at a local community center, helping families in need. As I read the email, tears of joy sprang to my eyes. "Mommy, why are you crying?" Emily asked, concern in her voice. I smiled, wiping my eyes. "Happy tears, sweetie. Mommy just got some very good news." As I hugged my daughter close, I realized that this wasn't just an ending. It was a beginning. A chance to show Emily what strength, independence, and self-respect truly meant. A chance to rebuild my life on my own terms. Later, as I watched Emily play in the backyard with my parents, I felt a surge of gratitude. For their support, for my own resilience, and for the journey ahead. The path wouldn't be easy, but I was no longer afraid. I was Carolyn, mother, daughter, and now, architect of my own destiny. With a deep breath, I stepped into the sunshine, ready to embrace whatever the future held. The best chapters of my life, I realized, were yet to be written.